Yo, what's going on, y'all?
Welcome in. Welcome to Face Mask Fantasy. Hopefully new and improved.
Hopefully. It looks like everything's all right, technologically speaking.
Finally,
we got the new streaming computer hooked up. Everything's ready to go. I think the stream looks pretty good right now, and nothing's freezing on us, so that's a good sign.
I'll take that. I'll take any wins I can get after we had a bit of a debacle last week. But looks like things are moving along nicely. So happy to see it, happy to hear it. And thanks for everybody tuning in and those who are still yet to join us.
Yeah. Hope y'all had a good weekend. Hope y'all are having a good week thus far. Yeah. I hope y'all are getting all of the fantasy news that y'all need. Like, hey, Devin Funchess back in the league.
Tight end / offensive tackle, Devin Funchess.
Devin Funchess back in the league.
Signing with the Detroit Lions. Is it even worth it to say it's another weapon for Jared Goff?
No, but was there any fantasy relevant information that dropped over the weekend?
We got Jerick McKinnon is back with the Chiefs.
Yep.
I feel like we got some injury updates. Trying to remember what specifically.
I mean, there was a rumor that Odell going to be signed. There was a rumor just today that Baker Mayfield looks to be heading to Carolina.
Yup. That's so funny to me. After for the first time in history, we saw a report earlier in the offseason that two sides had mutual disinterest in each other. And now, I guess it's funny how quickly things turn when the season gets closer and both sides realize how desperate they are for opportunities.
I mean, a lot of it, I think, is just like the Seahawks and the Panthers both know that the Cleveland Browns kind of have to cut Baker Mayfield. And if and when that happens, he's just going to get scooped up in the bidding war between those two teams. But in order for the Browns to get something out of the deal, they kind of had to float stories like this.
Sure.
So I think it has had more to do with that than anything.
Okay. Well, that would be great for Carolina.
Yeah.
Simply because Baker presents, for all of his faults, a massive upgrade over Sam Darnold and presumably Matt Corral, who third-round pick, but seems like he's probably in the developmental stages of his career. These rumors lead me to believe that they're not exactly ready to throw him to the wolves just yet. But at the same time, the Sam Darnold experiment as a starter in the NFL appears to be ending rather quickly. The change of scenery has not worked out for him so well.
Not at all.
So far. He did battle through some injuries last year, but even before that, by every metric, passing stat, he wasn't good. He was not good.
No, he was buoyed by the fact that he had like 5 rushing touchdowns over the first 6 games. And yeah, Darnold isn't good. Whatever happens with this Baker Mayfield situation, whether he goes to the Seahawks or goes to the Panthers, it'll be an upgrade for either team. And it solidifies that Jacoby Brissett is probably going to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback of 2022.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Get ready for that.
I guess get ready for a lot of handoffs to Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I guess. But what's going on, guys? Slim,
What's going on,
Sam,
Slim?
User
What's
Nerd.
going on, Sam? What's
Good
going
to
on,
see
User Nerd?
everybody. We're hopeful. Well, first of all, these things are popping up in the chat right away, which is first good sign. But I think our technical issues are hopefully finally behind us.
Yeah,
so
I don't want
let
to
us
speak
know.
too soon, but I am willing to go out on a limb and say that they are behind us. Everything is looking
New equipment, man.
looking great right
Works
now.
wonders,
So we're hoping
hopefully.
that continues for over the course of the next 2 hours and over the course of the next weeks, month, whatever.
And yeah, for however long moving forward, we want to, you guys want to keep listen to us babble on. So.
And Slim, we always look forward to. Thank you for always being in the
man.
in these live streams. We appreciate it. Sam, what's going on, man? Congratulations on that trade you made. That was a good trade, I believe. Getting Christian Kirk for a whole bunch of.
What happened?
You got Christian Kirk for a second, a third, and a fourth future.
Oh,
I think that's a good trade.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting a team's wide receiver one, who's getting paid like a top 10 wide receiver
Top
in
10
the league.
money.
He's only 25 years old, and you paid a second, a third, and a fourth to get him, which I think pretty damn good.
Oh, I see that now. And the second's not till 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great trade there. Great trade.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be Kirk and Travis Etienne as far as the target share in Jacksonville. Kirk figures to be peppered with all of the work that he can handle. So should be a PPR monster.
Yeah,
Should
get
be.
that stack. You got Trevor Lawrence too. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Even
Okay.
smarter move. Then I applaud you even more, man. That's a good job.
Yeah.
Good job. And
We
using
like stacks.
Cordell Patterson won't practice during mandatory minicamp. Does that give Tyler Algiers a shot?
Of course. First of all, I didn't see that report.
Yeah,
But
it just dropped a few hours ago.
Okay. Maybe I was working. Is at minicamp, but will not be participating. So it sounds like
They're working his way into,
they're just
season.
they're
managing
his reps. They're managing his reps. That's fine. So Patterson remains obviously the main, or the 1A option in this backfield / maybe as a weapon on this offense in general. Pitts is the other 1A. But yeah, I mean, Algier gets a chance to get into a bit of a rhythm, learn the playbook maybe a little bit faster. They'll throw him into the proverbial fire a little quicker. Obviously, it's just it's a mini camp. So, and these days, NFL teams are limited in the amount of, actual physical tackle practices and sessions that they can hold. So, but it's an opportunity to learn the playbook, maybe practice with the ones a little bit more than he otherwise would have. I think Algier's got a decent opportunity here and should mix in. We love Cordell Patterson and the skill set that he brings to the table, but you're never going to be able to give him more than how many touches or how many carries did he have last year? Like 150? Like, you can't give him more than that. He's not built that way. He's built to be an offensive weapon. Algier can carry a little bit more of a traditional workload.
Yeah, say what you will about Mike Davis last year. They needed Mike Davis to fulfill the role that he was fulfilling for Cordell Patterson to go off like he did.
Yeah. So now we're going to, now we get to see Algier, see what he can do. He's not, we're not expecting much in the way of passing game production, but that's what Patterson is for. So Algier should get some first and second down run this year. I think he's going to be I think he's going to be like, some decent running back depth for you. So
what I will say about Algiers and a lot of the running backs from this draft class, there's no guarantee that they have much of a shelf life beyond 2022 for the running backs that aren't named Breece Hall and really Kenneth Walker, and probably that might be it, but I do want to lump James Cook and Rachaad White into that as well. But anybody else, it might just be a one-year Band-Aid. We might be looking at a dare I say, a Michael Carter situation even just a year from now with guys like Algiers, with guys like Dameon Pierce. So
Yeah.
that is something you have to look out for, especially because the 2021 or the 2022 draft class was so weak with respect to the running backs. It was not thought of as a strength of this past year's draft class.
2023, it is a strength.
2023, it is a strength, and there are a bunch of guys that could come into existing backfields and make the incumbent number one pretty much an afterthought, and the Atlanta Falcons are one of those teams. So you do have to watch out for that. But for this season, I think Algiers got as good a shot as any to be an RB2.
He should contribute. He's got RB4 upside.
Yeah.
I would say. And he's much cheaper than Mike Davis was at this time. So
much. Mike Davis was going really high for no reason.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I was fixing the chat for a sec there. It looks a little bit more even now. But yeah. Okay. Stream is live. But
we like it. And with today, and of course, as always, we're happy to take any questions in the chat and just have a conversation with you guys. But the overarching topic that we will be covering today, because it is June, and for me, June is that part of the calendar where we flip from where we're talking about dynasty to redraft. And what better way to talk redraft than to talk rankings? So we will be covering our top 12 wide receivers for the 2022 season. For the most part, the names in our list are the same, except for one player each. And of course, where we have guys actually ranked. So we will be doing our top 12 wide receiver rankings for 2022. Yep. But of course, we will mix in breaks to take questions in the chat. And we got one more here from Slim before
we just start hitting these rankings. Yeah.
Before we make that transition. But yeah, so Slim said he traded Waddle for Tony in a 2023 second. So
the Dolphins are a weird team to believe in, but if there's one person that I would not be giving up on early, it probably would have, and not even probably, it would have been Waddle.
Any inkling, Slim, to where that second might fall? If it's a high second, then it's, again, we can only project at so far out, but if it's a high 2023 second, even if it's like in the 16-17 range or 17-18 range, it might be, if the depth works out and pans out as expected, that's going to be like a pseudo late first round pick this year compared to in 2023 compared to other years. So you're still probably going to get a pretty good player if you think it'll be in the top half of the second round. That being said, I would not have done that deal if I'm the one selling Waddle.
The one thing you got working in your favor is, yes, you sold low on Waddle, but you bought low on Tony at the same time.
Yeah, you bought low on Tony.
So you do have to factor that in. I mean, a lot of people are not expecting Tony to really fire, especially after that, he was expected to, especially after the Wan'Dale Robinson draft pick. But Tony showed flashes. Waddle showed way more than flashes.
Yeah.
Tony got hyper targeted in one game where a bunch of people were out. Like Waddle broke the rookie reception record with a quarterback that I would have put money on wasn't going to help a wide receiver break any records last year. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow there. Tony in a second for Waddle. If you believe in Tony and you think Tony and Waddle end up being around the same value moving forward, 2 years from now, and you picked up a 23 second that you can diversify your assets with and turn into a good pick, sure, I don't hate that. But I don't love trading away Waddle for Tony and only getting a 23rd second back. So it would have to be a top 3 23 second for me to really be happy with that.
Yeah, we want that 2023 second to be a high 2023 second, and then it's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow. We'll see. Waddle was the 6th overall pick. Tony was a late first round pick and was automatically billed as a reach by a lot of pundits.
Yeah.
which doesn't mean much in a vacuum.
And was it a late first or was it a mid first?
Or was it like I thought was it like 17? Maybe not. Where was he taken? It was in the second half of the first round.
120. So he was
20.
the 20th
okay.
pick. So
All right, so mid to late first ish. Mid late first.
One spot behind Treylon Burks a year later. Like
yeah, okay. So the draft capital is in Waddle's favor. The situation, you could argue Tony could emerge as the team's wide receiver one, whereas Waddle has little chance of being the team's wide receiver one any given year as long as Tyreek is in Miami.
The other thing is, I mean, you traded the wide receiver with a better quarterback for the wide receiver with the worst quarterback, at least as it stands right now. So in the short term, I know this is dynasty, and both of these guys are 23 years old, but on the short term, you might be on the short end of the stick there with Tony. Again, 3 years down the road, once the Giants and Dable and Joe Sheen have figured out the quarterback position, maybe that works out better. Maybe that works out better for Tony in the long run. But right now, Waddle is I don't love Tua, but Waddle is in a better situation than Tony from a quarterback standpoint, even with the presence of Tyreek there.
And that could change. Like, that's the glass half full perspective. Maybe the Giants are closer to turning the page on Daniel Jones than the Dolphins are with Tua. Therefore, maybe the trajectory for the Giants wide receivers starts to trend up faster. So if you're banking on that happening as well, but you're also then to that point, you're going to be rooting. You're rooting kind of against the Giants this year. You're hoping that if in this situation, I'm hoping the Giants and specifically Daniel Jones, because I'm not expecting Daniel Jones to take a Josh Allen like leap just because Brian Daboll is his coach. It's almost like the opposite direction for me. Let's have Daniel Jones crash and burn, and let's get the Giants one of the best quarterback prospects of the 2023 class. Like, that's kind of the scenario that I'm hoping for in this, if I'm the one acquiring Tony in this deal. So we'll see. There's obviously still, they both have their hollow careers ahead of them. You pick up a draft pick in a good class. That's the glass half full. Ultimately, though, I would have tried to squeeze a first round pick out of this instead of a second. That'll be the last thing I have to say here. We'll see. Plenty of story left in these two's careers. I would have asked for a first and Tony, and could have been hard to get.
Not speaking of the personnel involved, but you asked, am I crazy for selling low? And I just think, regardless of the players involved, unless you're just going for broke on a player that is on your favorite team that you absolutely love, and it's more of a homer trade than it is one to actually win games. We've all done it. Then I'm never trying to sell low. I'm never trying to sell low. I'm always trying to sell high, and even if that is getting rid of a player that I like and believe in, if his value is the highest it will ever be right now, I'm selling him. If it's the lowest it will ever be, I'm holding him until hopefully 6 months, a year from now, his value will have recouped a little bit. So not even talking about Waddle and Tony in a second. The am I crazy for selling low part. I'm not going to call you crazy for selling low. There are situations where it's the smart thing to do. Maybe not even the smart thing to do, but it's just makes sense for your team, whatever. I am not crazy about selling low. So that's where I fall.
Yeah, I'll sell low on like a 32-year-old vet who I should have moved when he was 31, but at least I'm getting something for him, and I feel like he's closer to done.
Right, I'll sell low
something
on
like
Julio
that.
Jones right now. Like,
yeah, right. I'll take a 4th-round pick 3 years from now for Julio.
I am not selling low on a 23-year-old coming off record-breaking rookie.
100
we
catch
don't
season.
need to go there. We don't need.
Yeah.
But
You get what I'm saying.
Just philosophically, sell high. Even if you
buy low, sell high.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy. We don't need to dig into it very much.
But we'll see what happens.
What's going on, Alex? You're on the clock in the 17th round of a draft. Who do you like here? Well, first off, can you throw us a screenshot of your team in the Discord or
what's your
type
like
out
where are you thinnest? Because the guy who stands out here to me is Tunyon. Like, are you thin or like a Gus Edwards? Because I'm pretty sure this is the scenario where you have Lamar. I think he has Mahomes and Lamar. Where are you thinnest? Like, could you use a tight end, or could you use a depth running back?
I would, because there are only two tight ends
Tunyon.
that you're listing here, and Tunyon and Dulcich. I would rather have Tunyon and wait
give me
on
Tunyon for a couple years.
The running backs and see just whoever falls in the group of Haskins, Strong, McKissick, Edwards.
Yeah.
If you're Marlon Mack, if you're looking at wide receiver, just see who falls to you next round or the round after that in Thornton, Corey Davis, Curtis Samuel. I don't think OBJ will fall, but
Andrews, Alberto, and Woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even with a room like that, I'm inclined to say Tunyon.
Because Woods is going to take 3 years,
and just the Packers, the pass catching room for them is just so wide open, and Tunyon at least has been in the room or has been with the team for like 3 years. So there's some built-in rapport with Rodgers already that he doesn't have to build with Tunyon, that he does have to build with a bunch of new guys.
Yeah, think of the upside here, and I'm taking out the rookies that you have listed, like the Haskins and Thornton and Strong. But, I mean, who else, if they have the year that we have speculated they're going to have right here on this channel, of this group is going to be able to be sold for a first-round pick?
There's only
it's Tunyon. You're not getting OBJ for a first. You're not selling OBJ for a first. You're not selling Ross. Is that John Ross? Marlon Mack's not going for a first. Curtis Samuel, I don't care, not going for a first. Corey Davis not going for a first. Gus Edwards not going for a first. McKissick, Strong, Thornton, Haskins, we don't know. Those are rookies. Not ones that we would be projecting would be going for a first. Tunyon is the one. Tunyon's the guy here. Tunyon's the guy here.
I think that's what I would do.
Yep.
I think that's what I would do.
And you posted in Discord. All right, we'll definitely check that out. Yeah. And hey, as you're on the clock in subsequent picks, if you happen to if the round goes quick and the 18th round is up and you're on the clock, throw us another question.
Yeah.
And
let us know.
We'll help you out a little bit there. But let's get into the subject for today.
Yep.
Top 12 redraft wide receivers.
Let's do it. Am I going first, or you want me to take?
Yeah, go first.
All right. So there's only so many options with the who's deserving of the number one overall spot. Cooper Kupp is going to be the consensus wide receiver one off of most boards, and deservedly so. He literally just had an historic season. Keyword being historic. And while I don't expect that much of a drop-off, it's hard to replicate history. It's really, really difficult to replicate history. So I have Kupp. I'll just, full disclosure, Kupp is excellent and is outstanding and in a phenomenal situation. Just got a contract extension. He's locked in to have top 5 wide receiver potential for probably a minimum of the next 3 years. But I have him as my wide receiver 2. And I have a player you can't even call him ascending anymore. He's just that guy, number 1. And I've been pounding the table for the Vikings all year, and I'm just going to put my money where my mouth is. I have Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1 for 2022. Burst onto the scene as a rookie with 1,400 receiving yards on 88 catches, almost 16 yards a catch. Bested all of those numbers. Well, not the yards per catch, but bested the catches by 20. Bested his yards in his second season by 200. Of course, the extra game helps, but still upped his numbers across the board. Went from 7 touchdowns to 10. And the Vikings underwent a complete regime change this year, where they changed their front office. They brought in an analytics mind as far as their general manager. Their head coach comes from the Rams coaching tree. You just by nature have to feel good about that. All they did was just win the Super Bowl, putting up huge numbers in the passing game. And so to that point, the offense is going to transition away from the ancient Mike Zimmer run the ball, then throw the ball on third down, maybe on offense to they're gonna open it up more. I think there are multiple Vikings that are in for career seasons. Justin Jefferson has already had a phenomenal start to his career. Now he's in his 3rd season, age 23. This is where we really start to see players start to blossom kind of across the board in general. And I think it continues. I think Jefferson's in for a massive year. He is my 101 coming into the 2022 season.
And I wrestled with this because conventional wisdom is, the Cooper Kupp just finished with possibly the best season the wide receivers ever had.
Yeah, maybe
how are
ever.
you going to fade him and put him fade out parentheses? But how are you going to fade him and put him
quote
number
unquote
2?
Right. Yep.
After finishing number 1 in overall finish and
Everything.
in points per game last season.
Everything. Yeah.
On top of just the overall raw stats that he put up. Insane.
Yeah.
But I think I got to put Justin Jefferson here too. Because this is a team that lost Ty Conklin, replacing him with Irv Smith. So from a target distribution perspective, nothing lost there in Jefferson's favor. But they also didn't bring in a wide receiver in this past year's draft outside of a wide receiver they drafted in the 5th round.
Jalen Naylor.
Jalen Naylor, right. And he is not he's expected to compete with KJ Osborne for the 4th spot, along with Amir Smith-Marset.
Yeah,
so this is not
he's a
somebody.
project.
This is not somebody who drafted in the 5th round is projected to threaten Justin Jefferson's target distribution or snap share or anything. Locked in, it's Jefferson and Thielen locked into 2 wide sets, and that's not going to change.
Nope.
To your point about the coaching staff, huge coaching staff boost.
They're going 3 wide a lot this year. Book it.
3 wide, pace of play should be through the roof. So just based on that,
yep.
And Justin Jefferson, I believe Justin Jefferson was number 2 in air yards last year.
I think that is
and now
correct.
they are opening up the offense.
Yep.
And didn't bring in anybody.
Nope.
To take away targets away from Justin Jefferson.
Nope. It's just Adam Thielen returning, who has already
and
been
Cook
there.
is a year older. Cook
is a year older, coming off ankle injuries, who we still like, but is maybe he's used a little bit more as a receiver, Cook. But I mean, you're talking about Jefferson entering his age 23 season, coming off a 167 target season. I have to believe he's got a 150 target floor. And that's probably being conservative given the expectations we have for this Vikings offense.
In the
I'm
first
very
2
bullish
years
in general
of his
Jefferson
career,
leads the charge.
He was 9 in points per game in 2020 and 4th in points per game in 2021. He has yet to finish outside of the top 10 in his career.
As a 21 and a 22-year-old.
Right.
Yep.
That's just insane.
He's excellent.
I love Cooper Kupp. We'll talk about him next.
Yep, we will.
But, I mean, there's no way I can put Justin Jefferson anywhere other than first.
I'm
in
very
redraft
high on Justin Jefferson.
And in Dynasty. He's my wide receiver 1.
He's the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, and that's a much easier, argument to be made for Dynasty. Obviously, Kupp has a much stronger argument for 2022 redraft to be number 1. I'm just incredibly bullish on it's twofold. I'm incredibly bullish on Jefferson, and while we have Cooper Kupp ranked number 2, I don't really have that much more to say on Jefferson. I think he's excellent. I do have Kupp ranked number 2, and I understand it feels a little disrespectful, and there's probably people who are just like, I'm already tuning you out for not having Kupp ranked number 1.
There's variance year to year. You look at what happened in 2020. Cooper Kupp finished as the wide receiver 27. In 2019, that was the wide receiver 4 overall. So we know that he can put up, and speaking to the choir, insane years.
Yeah.
But to your point that you mentioned earlier before you even brought up Justin Jefferson, it's hard to repeat in fantasy.
It's hard to repeat history, too.
There you go.
That's the key thing. Kupp had a season for the ages. When you factor in the playoffs, this argument has been made on Twitter multiple times. Kupp outpaced like a Jerry Rice type of season as far as the numbers that he put up. 145 catches, almost 2,000 receiving yards, 1947. That's a year that's not so long ago. And 16 touchdowns. That's just the regular season. On 191 targets. Phenomenal. Unbelievable numbers. Unbelievable numbers that are going to be unbelievably difficult to duplicate. Not to mention, obviously, yes, it's like season, like over the duration of a season, it's hard for defenses to make in-season adjustments that way. Don't you think, and again, I still have Kupp ranked number 2 overall. I'm not expecting that much of a drop-off as far as him being an incredibly safe option at the wide receiver position. But he's going to be double covered on every play, and he's probably going to be triple covered a lot.
You could say the exact same thing about Justin Jefferson. That's not factoring into my analysis here. Because with any of the top 3 guys, you can talk about, and really the top 2, because they don't have target competition or legit target competition like Jamar Chase does, who has a secondary wide receiver in the same offense, firmly in our top 12. But, I mean, Jefferson, he's got Thielen, and Cooper Kupp, he's got now Allen Robinson. Yes, their presence opens up the field for the other people in their offenses, but I don't care that Cooper Kupp is going to be double covered and triple covered. It didn't matter last year.
It didn't matter last year. It might matter more this year when he is the clear-cut, bona fide, with a full offseason. He was the clear-cut,
bona fide wide receiver 1 last year.
With a full offseason to prepare for it.
Yeah, but I'm not going there.
As opposed to week to week. Week to week.
I'm not going there. Halfway through the season.
Splitting hairs. That's like my point.
Halfway through the season, Robert Woods went down. Odell Beckham came in off of an injury from another team. Didn't know the playbook, whatever. So the opposing defense's playbook was stop Cooper Kupp. We can handle Odell. What happened?
He had a very good season.
They didn't stop Cooper Kupp. Odell still had a decent, great touchdown numbers.
Yeah, he had really good touchdown numbers.
I don't think you can cover him. I'm not going to put coverage in the detractor column for Cooper Kupp. I just think
bringing up that it's another factor that might work more against Kupp's fit. And again, we're still talking about like a 1,500-yard season. Just that it might be more of a factor when you literally make history.
He was number 1 in targets, obviously. In target share, he was number 1 across the league. In snap share, he was number 1 across the league. In routes run, he was 5. In red zone targets, he was number 1. He was the number 1 red zone targeted red zone wide receiver. Not going to change. I don't think that's going to change.
No, it won't. It won't.
The yards after catch might change. The being number 1 in receptions maybe might change, but all these metrics, man,
he could threaten that. Like, let's
all
put
these
it this
metrics.
way.
I'm not thinking, triple coverage is going to stop.
Just
stop
saying
those numbers
that it
from
could be
occurring
more
once again.
of a factor when you make history. That's all I'm saying.
Fair.
Because we're talking about like the potential for a drop off could still be 100 catches and 15 yards, or 1,500 yards. Like, that would still be a phenomenal season. But because it's so difficult to duplicate history, I have Kupp number 2, and I have Jefferson number 1.
And we love the new coaching staff in Minnesota. But basically what we're hoping from the coaching staff in Minnesota is that they look like the coaching, some sort of, you know what I mean? Some sort of version of the Rams coaching staff where all they do is pass. Yeah, they mix in the run a little bit, but pretty much all they do is pass. When they're up by 30 points, all they do is pass. Number 1 in pace of play in the league. Like, that's not changing. So the targets, just based off of the pace of play, the routes run probably isn't gonna change. The target rate probably isn't gonna change. The air yards probably not gonna change. I'm looking at a lot of these metrics where he finished top 3, top 4, even number 1. I don't see them changing all that much.
Yeah, it's hard to anticipate those numbers changing that much. But to your point that you made just a short while ago, variance has happened with Cooper Kupp's career to this point. Now there's much more stability with Matthew Stafford there.
I don't even know if we're really what point are we arguing? Because we both agree
it's really
that
just
he's
one. It's one
2.
versus 2. It's 1 versus 2 as it pertains to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah,
that's the argument, or that's the debate. It's not an argument.
I don't even think we're arguing, though. We agree. No. We have him in the same exact spot.
We're just loudly yelling.
Basically.
Well, not that there's such a thing as softly yelling. We're loudly talking.
But, yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp is going to be amazing. Age 29 season, so he's not quite hit that cliff. And he's a wide receiver that started his career at age 24. So he has a little bit longer of a shelf life, I believe, than some of these other wide receivers, just by the nature of he came into the league a little later, less wear and tear.
Oh, he's a technician at the position. He's not like, he's a good athlete. He's not necessarily he's relying on his knowledge of the route tree, his connection with Stafford that he clearly developed very quickly. And just, insane advanced, production from every literal advanced metric that you look at. I have him number 2, and maybe this is unfair just only because of how difficult it is to duplicate history, because that's literally what he had, was an historic season. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in the same spot as you.
And he's still a wide receiver.
I don't think he's going to take much of a... It's hard to say he's not going to take much of a step back. But, I mean, I'm looking at him, and can he get to 1,700 yards? I think that's... Yeah.
I mean, I was saying 200
short of where he was last year. But if he gets to 1,700 yards, there's a chance he's leading the league in yards. Like...
I would say a very good chance, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I have him at wide receiver 2, just like you. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1. I think we've spoken enough about both of those top 2 guys, and I think I know who you have at number 3. Probably the same guy that I have at number 3.
Well, I think you kind of already talked about him. It's Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
There's no way you can have, as far as I'm concerned, anybody else in the top 3. Chase, like, what is there to say? Like, 18 yards per reception as a rookie. The
only reason he's behind the other 2 guys is because of T. Higgins.
Yeah, T. Higgins is the best number 2.
If T. Higgins wasn't there, Jamar Chase would probably be ranked number 1, or maybe, if you're splitting hairs, number 2.
Maybe. Yeah. I would say, yeah, that's the only thing, like, working against Jamar Chase, is that he's got another excellent wide receiver on the other side of him. But I mean, look at the number. His numbers year 1 are very similar to Justin Jefferson, except for he scored more touchdowns. Yeah. So
with more target competition.
More target competition. I think he had a few more targets than Jefferson's rookie season. A couple less catches, but more yards by about 50. 18 yards a catch, 13 touchdowns, averaged almost 86 yards a game. All of these numbers are probably going to go up this year. He had 128 so Jefferson had 125 targets as a rookie and then went all the way up to 167. Chase saw 128. So could he see 165 targets, like that 35, 40 target growth, so to speak? Yeah, why not? Why the hell not with a player of his caliber? He's going to be 22. Another year, just another year working with his quarterback, his same quarterback since college, Joe Burrow. They've got a connection dating back to their days where they crushed at LSU. I mean, you're talking about similar upside to the same guys that are ranked 1 and 2 ahead of him. Again, the only drawback is that T. Higgins is that guy, whereas Adam Thielen is very good and he's a big time touchdown scorer, but he's 32.
And you speak to it, you just spoke to it. Touchdown score. If you
Adam
look at his
Thielen
totals over the last
guy.
If you look at the totals over the last few seasons for Thielen, he's got 20 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons.
Thielen's
even
a touchdown
more so if you
scorer.
add in seasons prior to that. But he was
got
doing
hurt
it on like
year.
700 yards, 800 yards.
Yep.
He's not a touchdown guy. He's not a yardage guy. So
no, he's not going to get 1,200 yards, but he'll get you 12 touchdowns.
But if you're talking about the competition that both of those wide receivers are dealing with, edge to Jefferson, because Jamar Chase does have to deal with another top 10, top 12 wide receiver candidate in T. Higgins. Not to mention the presence of Tyler Boyd, who is one of the better wide receiver 3s in all of the NFL.
Yeah. Yep, upper
what I will
echelon
say
wide
is
receiver 3.
a few of those targets that you probably would have gone to Boyd can probably be
Chase,
edged into Chase's favor. And they moved away from C.J. Uzoma and went with Hayden Hurst, who is a better all-around tight end than C.J. Uzoma, but C.J. Uzoma is a better pure receiving threat than Hayden Hurst. So some of those tight end targets, I believe, will go towards Jamar Chase as well. So, Chase, there's a chance that he could get 145, 155 targets. I don't know if it's going to be up near the 160 that Jefferson got in year 2. But as long as he's doing it on the same amount of deep, it seemed with the same rate of deep targets, because he had the 3rd most deep targets in the league last year, Jamar Chase.
And he's going to keep getting them.
That's despite having the 17th most targets in the league. So if those targets go up, you can expect those deep targets to go up. And by the end of this year, I mean, we could be looking at Jamar Chase as the best deep threat wide receiver in the league. And that's crazy, because we were just talking about off stream. T. Higgins might be the best deep threat wide receiver in the league.
Higgins is a damn good deep threat.
Young
in his
deep
own
threat
right.
wide receiver in the league. So it's just a wealth of riches over there. But there's no way you can put Jamar Chase anywhere lower than 3rd. And honestly, even that feels.
There's going to be people who rank him 1st overall, not just for Dynasty, but for 2022. And they're going to have a legitimate argument for it. Yeah,
it feels unfair to rank Jamar Chase 3rd. After being the wide receiver 5 in points per game as a rookie.
Yep.
Crazy.
And the last thing I'll say on this, and this applies to T. Higgins as well, Joe Burrow will be another year removed from the knee injury that he suffered as a rookie.
And finally playing with a competent O-line. So
offensive line looks like it's much better. Yep.
Right. Some of those deep targets, I mean, this offense might be opening it up even more. There might be more deep targets available in this offense.
And they might have to a little bit more, because the defense overachieved last year.
Yep.
The Bengals defense was good last year. Nobody expected them to play as well as they ended up playing. So if they regress a little bit, which we see happen all the time, when units overperform, they call it overperforming for a reason. They regress naturally to the mean. Could mean more scoring opportunities for the Bengals offense. So Jamar Chase to the moon, T. Higgins to the moon. But we don't have T. Higgins ranked 4th.
But But
We have
let's
him in our top
because I feel like this is where our rankings diverge a little bit at number 4.
Yep.
So let's get to the chat. Make sure
Let's
we're
do
caught
that.
up in the chat, and then we can go back to these wide receiver rankings.
Yep. Rojo, Johnny, what's going on? We see your comments. We're going to get to all of these. But I see Alex asking if he should take Huntley next round because he has Lamar. I would say yes. I like the idea of having those two paired. Huntley showed a little something last year.
Well, look at the stacks that you've built. You have Andrews.
Stacks.
So and we both think that Lamar Jackson is going to be the Baltimore Ravens quarterback of the future. But if anything happens there where there's just, I don't know, the bridge is burnt to where Lamar Jackson's just like, I need to get out of here. The last quarterback that the Ravens had as a backup that was a dual threat quarterback was Tyrod Taylor. He left and started for other teams for 3 plus years.
Yeah.
Right. So I look at Tyler Huntley, and I think there's a possibility that Tyler Huntley could be the next Tyrod Taylor. And that's
Sure.
if we're looking at this like Lamar Jackson might move on. Even if Lamar Jackson doesn't move on, Tyler Huntley had a 30-point game last year.
Yeah.
He scored 4 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
And in the other games, I mean, he was no slouch. Yes, his passing numbers weren't all that great. I believe he had 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions or something, or either or. Maybe it was 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Still, not good numbers, but it almost doesn't matter from a fantasy perspective because he has that rushing floor. I believe he was top 5, top 6 in rushes per game, yards per game on the ground, all the metrics that we care about for rushing quarterbacks. So if Lamar Jackson, who is a rushing quarterback, more prone to taking hits that could knock him out of games, knock him out for a couple of weeks, knock him out for a season, hope not, but that is a possibility. Tyler Huntley can come in and get you a baseline of 10, 12 points and has the ceiling for 30 because he's done it. He did it last year. So, yeah, I like that pick.
Yeah, I'm good with that. 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions through the air, but I mean, 47 carries for almost 300 yards in 4 games.
Exactly.
I mean, you're chipping in 40 yards a game on the ground. Yeah. That's exactly what you're looking for from a dual threat quarterback. And they chipped in 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, yeah. For what it's worth, I don't think Lamar's going anywhere, but get the insurance policy for a player like Lamar. And when the insurance policy is Lamar light, emphasis on light, but Lamar light from as far as the skill set that he brings to the table, yeah, I want that in my back pocket.
Tyrod Taylor was nobody's picture of a franchise quarterback, but he still finished quarterback 7 in 2015 with nothing on the Bills. So, I mean, if Tyler Huntley is a restricted free agent after this year, if for some reason that they decide to split ways, and you have Tyler Huntley on the free agent market and Lamar Jackson on the Baltimore Ravens, there's a good chance Tyler Huntley picks up at least a shot at a starting role next season. And
a situation where he's not far away from
exactly.
It's a quarterback competition.
Right. He's 24 years old.
He ends up in Carolina. Maybe he ends up in a place like Carolina or Seattle where it's like or a team in general that misses out on a top prospect in the 2023 draft, and they're just looking for a young guy to try to develop and figure out what he can do.
Look at what the situation the Seahawks are in this year. I mean, yeah. I could see Tyler Huntley getting a shot next year. I could see Tyler Huntley getting a shot next year.
Yeah.
And if he
the Giants, hell.
Yeah.
Washington, there are gonna be opportunities. And then there's still young quarterbacks out there that still need to prove their worth. So I mean,
the more I look at this past year's draft class, the more I look at it none of these guys could have to start. Even just this year. I mean, if the Panthers, and we're getting in the weeds here, if the Panthers are going to buy Baker Mayfield, does Matt Corral ever start? Ever?
Might get a chance, but a third-round pick is not guaranteed. You know, it's
Right.
not like
Look at
it's not a
Mond
first-round
last year.
pick.
Look at Trask last year. Yeah, Davis Mills panned out as a third-round pick, but
He had nothing in front of him.
That's a 33% win rate.
Right, and that was just a good. That was just like somebody had to get an opportunity in Houston, so he just happened to be the one who fell into that spot. So yeah.
Yeah, we can point to Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott and Derek Carr as being these later-round quarterbacks who panned out, but they're few and far in between. There are quarterbacks that are drafted in the third round every year that don't see the light of day from an NFL perspective. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, considering they were all pretty much drafted in the third round, a lot of these guys could never see the field. In which case, I mean, if I had the choice between Matt Corral and Tyler Huntley, and I was an NFL front office person, like, I don't know. It'd be tough.
It's a coin flip at this point.
Yep.
But,
so, yeah, I like that.
Do that.
I like
do
that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah, Rojo, I don't disagree. I think Chase is already excellent. I have no reason to believe he can't be historically good. We've already seen him put up monster, like absolute ridiculous blow up games.
Even if he stays, even if he gets injured, like I look at other wide receivers who have gotten injured and
they come back.
Cooper Kupp got injured multiple times.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp got hurt. Did he miss an entire season, or maybe he got hurt early and missed the whole season?
He's been hurt twice. He had season-ending injuries, I believe, twice.
I mean, he may have stamped his ticket to the Hall of Fame just on last year alone.
Keenan Allen, two season-ending injuries.
Twice. Back-to-back years.
Are we worried about Keenan Allen? Nah.
Keenan Allen's a perennial.
There are these types of wide receivers where it doesn't even matter if they get injured. I think Jamar Chase is as close to a Hall of Famer as you can pinpoint after year one.
Yeah. And
unless he's full Odell Beckham, where after 3 seasons he starts racking up injuries, goes elsewhere to a team that doesn't know how to utilize him, and just face plants for 3 straight years. Like, I just don't. Jamar Chase,
and the Bengals are built. The Bengals are built differently than that Giants team was that Odell got drafted to. This Bengals team is filled with youth and a young, promising quarterback that they have no. They need to. The Bengals are notorious for being a penny pinching franchise. I think they're going to wise up and open the purse strings where necessary, and that includes obviously Burrow and obviously Jamar Chase, and I think obviously T. Higgins too. Yeah. I have no reason to believe Chase can't be historically good.
Then, Rojo, you're just the kid since high school. Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to everybody in here who plays Campus Canton, like Alex, something we want to get into. But, yeah, he's been pinpointed as the guy forever. And he's done nothing throughout his career, even before he hit the NFL, to dissuade anybody who's been paying attention.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna be good.
Johnny's got
a trade question.
Someone wants to trade me Fournette for your Pittman. I wouldn't do that.
No. You have Kupp, Allen, and Deontay, and Pittman.
If you want to diversify, I would trade Fournette for Keenan Allen.
Sure, do it for Allen
because he's 6 years older.
Yeah.
And you look at
Kupp and Allen
life.
Kupp and Allen are like close, not that they're close to the end, but they're both approaching 30. Pitt and Fournette is 27, which in NFL years is
he's basically a 30-year-old wide receiver at the running back position. I mean, Pittman, he's 24 years old, going on 25. I would rather have the combination of Pittman and Deontay for the next 5 years than the and if and when Kupp and Allen fall off, then the other way around, then Leonard Fournette even a year from now.
And then you have Pittman and Deontay to still lean on at wide receiver.
Yeah, man, I'd stay pet.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you want to look anything up, feel free. The advanced metrics on Matt
You have
Ryan's...
Fournette. Okay, yeah, yo, if you can trade into Pittman from Fournette, do it all day. Do it right now.
Oh.
I almost don't care what your running backs or wide receivers look like. Go get Pittman right now, because we are going to talk about Pittman later. Pittman falls into both of our top 12 redraft wide receivers for 2022, and that's not even to speak on what we believe on is his ceiling in Dynasty year in, year out. But this season, he has top 12 value. I'm as a 24-year-old wide receiver.
I know Clyde is a massive question mark, but you have Swift, and I will continue to pound the table that Gibson is fine.
Hey, I'm a bigger fan of Gibson this year than you are. I love Gibson this year.
True. Yeah.
You just go back to look at our rankings.
He's still only 23. Swift and Gibson,
Go back and look at our rankings show last week. We were both very high on Gibson. Swift and Gibson is a great 1-2 punch. I would rather have Pittman than Fournette any day of the week.
Yeah, do that deal, Johnny. If you're the one giving up Fournette and acquiring Pittman, hell yeah. And what I was about to say before we confirmed that, that you were the one giving up Fournette, not acquiring Fournette. Go look at the advanced metrics and the passing numbers for Matt Ryan's, wide receiver 1 historically. I know a lot of those have been Julio, but Matt Ryan throwing the ball to his wide receiver 1. The numbers are incredibly strong.
Matt Ryan has thrown for over 4,000 yards in 10 straight seasons prior to 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look at the target distribution in that offense. It's Michael Pittman, and then the team is hoping that that Alex Pierce can be better than Paris Campbell.
Paris Campbell stays healthy, or which has not happened to this point, unfortunately, in Campbell's career.
And I don't want to jump ahead yet because we got to do our deep dives on Pittman, and we will stick around, but go get Pittman. Go get Pittman now.
Yeah, go get Pittman, and the chat clearly agrees. What's going on, Crumply?
And then just chill with us. Wait until the Pittman subject comes up again, and we'll just be...
Johnny, do the deal, man.
Yeah, just do it.
Do the deal. Go get Pittman, and then pour yourself something to celebrate. Seriously. Do that. Do that deal.
Absolutely. What's going on, Crumply Heads?
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, the flow is gone. But appreciate the shout out. Who's someone we're targeting at somewhere around the 301 this year? Jelani Woods, right?
I mean, yeah.
Jelani.
I'm a fan of Jelani, and I know it's probably going to take 2 to 3 years before that guy pans out, but I'm willing to just stash him. I am willing to stash him. If you're looking for guys with a little bit more of an immediate impact, guys that can probably make a little bit more of an immediate impact. I mean, who's available?
Jalen Tolbert.
Jalen Tolbert for sure.
Maybe Algier.
Tyler Algiers.
Saw Alec Pierce.
TDP is probably drafted a little bit higher than 301, but
yeah, but he might be there. Davis Price might be there. He should factor
Price
in.
might be there. Wandale.
Wandale might be there. Those guys. I don't know if David Bell might fall because of concerns about Watson. Concerns about his quarterback. David Bell might fall.
Honestly, if I'm at the 301, I'm trying to trade back to like the 305 and draft Jelani there because I think he'll still be available.
Pick up another
I feel
third.
like people were really high on Jelani a few weeks ago, and that has tailed off a little bit.
It's tapered because rookie hype, always, no matter what, eventually subsides. Maybe. Jelani was the first name that comes to mind. Obviously, he's a 3-year project, but we like the athletic profile a lot.
I don't believe in Alec Pierce. Straight up, I don't believe in Alec Pierce. So to me, I'd be going Jelani here because I do think in 2 to 3 years, it's going to be Pittman, somebody else besides Alec Pierce, and Jelani Woods. And it might just be Pittman and Jelani Woods. We don't know. But Jelani Woods is going to be a big part of this offense. And he has the athleticism to really boom when he gets his chance. chance. So it's not going to come this year. Mo Alley Cox still there, firmly
Big
in
Mo.
his prime, 20 years old. But once Mo Alley Cox moves on, he's pretty much got the backfield or the tight end room to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Jelani. So yeah, but I would try to trade back from 301, maybe pick up a third next year, or if somebody has 2/3, maybe trade back to get the 2/3, draft Jelani, and then pick up somebody else, whoever falls of guys that you like. But I would be trying to trade out of that 301. And Johnny Jones also, Keenan Allen, CEH, and Mike Williams for Pitts. Is that Mike Williams or Mike Evans? Who is that?
Yeah, which Mike?
Mike. Yeah, I don't know what Mike you're talking about there.
Unless you're talking about flipping Pittman. Like it's like the like if you're acquiring Pittman, Mike. I don't think so.
I wouldn't do that though.
Keenan, Clyde, and
Pittman for Pitts.
Keenan, Clyde, and yeah, whoever the Mike is. If it's Mike Williams or Mike Evans, I love Mike Evans this year, but that might be.
Yeah, because they're all 28 and older, with the exception of CEH, and CEH is.
That might be worth it.
If you got if you're selling a bunch of 28, 29-year-olds for a 21-year-old phenom tight end, then that's worth it. But if it's,
I don't know who who's
if it's
Mike,
Gesicki, then yeah. But
then
if
holy hell, I'm just thinking of
Mike's.
Mike's.
Turning around and making that like a Pittman, CEH, Keenan Allen, I don't know
Mike
about
Davis.
that.
Just thinking about. I got Mike's on the mind now. Box of Mike and Ike's. Like, yeah, do the deal. Yeah, let us know who Mike is. Let us know who Mike is.
I know you might be able to get Dalton Schultz. You will be able to get Dalton Schultz and Hawkinson for a lot cheaper. You will.
Yeah.
Than Pitts. You absolutely will. But what you're getting in Pitts is worth the overpay. He's 4 to 5 years younger than both of those other guys. And he was a 1,000-yard receiver as a tight end and only scored 1 touchdown.
As a rookie.
Right. Rookie tight end. If he has, he will have positive touchdown regression. It's Mike Gesicki. Yo, if you can do that with those guys, if you can trade Keenan Allen, CEH, and Mike Gesicki for Pitts, bro, I wish I was playing in your league.
If the person who has Pitts rostered,
that's crazy,
accepts that deal, he's saying he doesn't know if he could get it done.
Hey, just try.
I'm gonna go ahead.
It's even a question.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the guy says no. But if he says yes to that offer, do it.
Even if he starts thinking it over and still says, it's a little too much, if you can throw a second on it to make him happy and appease him, that's still a huge win for you. Still a huge win for you. So, yeah. Pitts is Pitts.
Yeah,
if
reach
you can
out.
Go and get him. He is a much better dynasty asset than both Hawkinson and Schultz. So
he's better than any tight end for dynasty. He's better than any tight end for dynasty. Today, right now. Pitts is the tight end 1 for dynasty.
Yeah. And
if you think you need to offer way more, that's probably going to be the case. But if you want to try, it never hurts to try.
And
you don't want to offend anybody.
Keenan Allen is the truth, but he's 30 years old. CEH might finally be the truth with no Tyreek, but they did just bring in Jerick McKinnon. They did bring in Ronald Jones, so they might have 2 better running backs on the roster right now, even with Darrell Williams leaving, than CEH. They still have Derek Gore there, who, with minimal touches, was very good, very efficient, and seemed to be trusted by the coaching staff. I'm almost all the way out on CEH, despite the fact that he's 24.
He's only 20. I thought he was 23.
23. He might. I just almost don't care.
He's 23.
Okay.
And he just turned 23, so he'll be 23 for this season. he will not turn 24
Yeah, but
until
like
next
theoretically, like
I'm just
realistically, not even
confirming the age.
theoretically.
That's all.
Realistically, at the end of the season, who do you expect to have more fantasy points? Kenneth Gainwell or CEH?
Oh man. I mean, I have to.
It's got to be CEH, but
I got to give the edge to Clyde there. But
how many points? The fact that it's
the fact that you have to bring it up at all
right.
is
That's
the larger.
That's my point.
It's
That's
the
my
larger
point.
problem.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. See what he says. And go from there. Let's get caught up on this chat, and then we are going to continue through our wide receiver rankings.
Yes, sir.
Ro said he traded Alec Pierce.
Good.
Let's see. Traded Alec Pierce, which was drafted at the 209, and third-round picks for the next 3 years starting this year for Keontae Ingram. This was prior to the Darrell Williams signing.
That's
but
a win,
you got
dude.
the 2024 first out of it.
That's a win.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That's
I would
a
take
win.
that. Yeah. Yeah,
209 and 3/3 for a running back that
for a depth back who we'll see.
Right, and a 24
see.
first.
But the first round pick is like,
win.
Nicely done.
And yeah, the Darrell Williams signing does lower his ceiling, but
yeah,
Ingram's still a good. Just you have him on your taxi now. Very good running back to have on your taxi squad.
Nice deep stash.
Should be in the same position we all thought he was going to be this past year. Next year.
Yeah. No, nicely done.
Yep.
Nicely done. Slim, appreciate it, man. We love you guys too. We love doing this every week. We're happy that we're pretty sure. I haven't seen anybody mention anything, but we're pretty sure that the stream is finally glitch free or clunk free, so to speak. I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Which obviously we've been frustrated that we haven't been to this point able to bring you guys the best product that we absolutely can. We think we have maybe rounded a corner on that. John has been working his ass off the weekend to make sure that the technology is where we expect it to be. And so we appreciate that we can have this conversation with you guys and a little cleaner moving forward.
Yeah. It was driving both of us crazy. I mean, this is something that I almost threw
my laptop against the wall.
We look forward to this, just like y'all look forward to this
every
day that we do this every week. And to be hyped up to do this and then to be bogged down by the technical difficulties that we were having was
Deflategate.
It was Deflategate.
Yeah,
so
I felt like a Tom Brady football. I've deflated.
But we've gotten past it, and everything's for the better. But we are at the end of the chat, so let's get back to these rankings. We had Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase as our 1, 2, and 3, and I think right at 4 is where our rankings divulge.
Really? Okay. And Rojo, thanks for letting us know that the stream's been good.
Thanks,
glad
Rojo.
to hear it. Johnny, if you can pull off the deal, do it. But okay, at my number 4,
yes,
I have your boy, Stephon Diggs.
Okay, all right. I thought we were gonna not be in lockstep here. I got Stephon Diggs at number 4 too.
Oh, okay. I mean, this is kind of simple for me. The only reason he's not higher is just because of how excellent the other 3 guys are. But I'm not even gonna waste time spewing any. I mean, not waste time sharing stats. It's just simple. He's Josh Allen's wide receiver 1, and we're high on Gabe Davis, but there's a clear talent discrepancy between Diggs and anybody else in this elite passing offense. It's elite, but it's elite in large part because of what Diggs brings to the table. He's a threat for over 100 catches any given season. The Bills
not a threat, man. I think he's a lock. I don't even think it's a threat to be over 100.
Yeah, fair. All right, threat was the wrong word. Threat was the wrong word. He's a safe bet for over 100 catches. They do lose Brian Daboll, but the foundation has been built. It has been established. Josh Allen's potential and ceiling have both been maximized. Stephon Diggs has been unlocked since the trade from Minnesota to Buffalo. And there's no reason to believe that the Bills will continue to operate as anything more than one of the most pass-happy teams in the NFL. And what do you want? at the end of the day, when it comes to fantasy football, sometimes it's this simple. There's not too many metrics or numbers that you need to look at. You want good players on good teams attached to good quarterbacks. Stephon Diggs checks all of those boxes.
Yeah, and you look at what he did in 2020, wide receiver 3, and that's his ceiling. You look at what he did in 2021, wide receiver 7. That's his floor.
He's a top 10 lock. He's a top 10 layup with
how
top
many
5
how many other wide
upside.
receivers can you say wide receiver 7 is their floor at 28 years old? Not too many.
Few.
He was just one of 2 wide receivers to have over 2,000 air yards. Who was the other wide receiver? Justin Jefferson.
Ayo.
He also had the most end zone and red zone targets of anybody in the NFL during the regular season. You know who had the second most? Justin Jefferson. He had 6 more than end zone targets than Justin Jefferson did last year. And he was one of the only wide receivers that had more than 2,000 air yards, just like Justin Jefferson. And that was his floor year, because he was playing with Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, who are both gone. And they replaced him with Jamison Crowder. Should slide right in and be the Cole Beasley.
How old is Jamison Crowder?
Jamison Crowder is 28, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, he's younger than I thought.
But Sanders was 34 years old, and
34?
he was getting a ton of air yards last year over the first 10 weeks of the season. And then he was phased out of the offense for Gabe Davis. And we saw both Gabe Davis's and Stephon Diggs' value skyrocket over over the last half of the season. Stephon Diggs put on a clinic. He wasn't the greatest wide receiver in the league through the first 10 games, but those last 8 games, he turned it on, and that coincided with the team moving away from Emmanuel Sanders, moving away from Cole Beasley, and using 2 wide receivers and a tight end. Yeah. And that's kind of what they're betting on walking into 2022 with. Stephon Diggs in his prime, 28 years old. We talk about the age apex season being 27. With a guy like Stephon Diggs, you're not too worried about a drop-off because he's, again, one of those technicians like a Cooper Kupp, like a Keenan Allen. So I'm not worried about Diggs losing a step anytime soon. Neither is the Bills. The Bills locked up and extended Stephon Diggs for 4 seasons. So they're not worried about Stephon Diggs falling off anytime soon. So that should tell you everything you need to know about Stephon Diggs in 2022. I mean, ceiling of wide receiver 3, floor of wide receiver 7, lost Beasley and Sanders, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 4.
Yeah. 2 quick more points about this, and then I'm honestly I can move on.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder will be turning 29 in 3 days. So happy early birthday, but he will be turning 29 on June 17th. And then to your point about Sanders and Beasley, they had 184 targets last year between the 2 of them.
And both of them were well over 30. So I'm not...
Jamison Crowder's not picking up 184 targets is my point.
Oh, no.
There are more. Diggs's workload.
I think he picks up 100. I think
I don't know about
Crowder
that.
picks up 100.
Oh, crap. I thought you meant Diggs. It's like Diggs picking up 100 more targets than he already has.
Come on now.
Diggs, 250 targets.
Hey, I'd be happy with it. But no, I think Crowder picks up 100. Maybe 20 get divvied up between other guys. And then does Stephon Diggs come in and get 40 more targets than he did last year?
He's had 166 and 164 targets respectively in his 2 years since the trade, and 184 have been freed up. So, yeah, we could be looking at a 200 target type of season for Stephon Diggs.
Look at Cooper Kupp.
I'd be willing to bet he's got a floor of 180 targets.
Before this past season, Cooper Kupp was nobody's top 12 wide receiver. No, he was nobody's top 12 wide receiver, and he turned into one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time behind what? Insane efficiency, insane usage in a great offense that doesn't that doesn't keep their foot off the gas.
No.
Stephon Diggs is in the same situation.
Yep.
Same situation.
Yeah. That's all I got about Diggs. Wide receiver 4. One of the safest players on the board.
Who do you got at 5?
5 is where I have another wily old vet. Sort of, I don't know if he's wily old, but you get the idea. It's Davante Adams.
Yeah, hey, look at us in lockstep. That's where I have Davante Adams.
Look at us. Who'd have thought? Yeah, Adams is number 5. He's close to Diggs. The edge goes to the continuity that Diggs has and the fact that he has Josh Allen. Adams, it's, call a spade. Going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr is a drop-off. We like Derek Carr. Derek Carr's a good quarterback. It's a drop-off going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. But that being said, we're talking about one of the best wide receivers in the NFL over the past 3 seasons. Davante Adams is one of the best route runners in the NFL. He's got, I would say, maybe the best footwork at the line of scrimmage at the wide receiver position in the NFL. He's got a nose for the end zone. I know, again, it's with Rodgers, but he averages a touchdown per game for his career at home. He's a layup for double-digit scores. Maybe not double-digit scores, but he's a layup to score at home, basically, for his career. Does that change a little bit now playing in Vegas? Maybe. But the glass half full from like an intangible perspective is he's closer to home and he's playing with his college quarterback. So there's not too much of a drop-off as far as potential rapport. It's been a while since he played with Derek Carr, but they have played together, dating back to their Fresno State days. This is a Raiders offense that we expect to take a step forward from a passing perspective this year. Maybe not to the extent that we're bullish on the Vikings, but they do bring in Josh McDaniels. They move away from the John Gruden disaster, I think we can call it. And it's going to be more of a pass-first offense. They add Davante Adams, who has been a 150-target floor for his career. So the likes of Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller might see a bit of a drop-off as far as involvement. But those are pretty damn good. I wouldn't even call them ancillary pieces because I think that's doing both of them a disservice. This is going to be a difficult offense to defend. And Davante Adams is, just adds another element and another layer to that. One of the smartest players at the position, one of the most talented players at the position. While it's because of the trade, I can't rank him higher than 5 out of respect for what he has done in his career, despite the change of scenery. He still remains top 5. He's 5th, but he's top 5.
So, I like you have Davante Adams here, mostly based off of the fact that over the last 2 seasons, he's been a top 2 wide receiver. Yeah, and then he has insane touchdown numbers over the last 2 seasons. I believe it was 11 the year before last year and 18 last year. Insane numbers.
He's a stud.
But who did we have at number 5? And I'm not making a direct comparison here, but who did we have at number 5 in our RB rankings? And it was kind of a ranking that was based on. There's
Derrick
no way
Henry.
I can have him lower than this.
Yeah, Derrick Henry.
And it's not a comparison because we believe a cliff is coming for Derrick Henry, and I do not believe a cliff is coming for Davante Adams. Not at all. But this ranking here is more, to me, based off of what he has done in the league prior to this season, more so than what he will do this year. In 2021, he was number 2 in targets, number 1 in target rate, number 3 in red zone targets, number 3 in targets per snap. Those numbers are not going to be repeatable on the Las Vegas Raiders. They're just not. I like Derek Carr just as much as you. I think Derek Carr is underrated just like you.
He's underrated.
He's not Aaron Rodgers.
He's not great. He's good. He's not that level.
Right. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't pass the same amount as Aaron Rodgers does, and he doesn't hone in on one target like Aaron Rodgers does. I don't think that we're going to, in 2022, see Davante Adams anywhere close to number 2 in targets, number 1 in target rate, number 3 in red zone targets, and number 3 in targets per snap on a team with Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. And I know you might be thinking, well, Adams outclasses both of those guys. And I agree. Yep. But Adams drew most of his targets from Aaron Rodgers from the slot last year with the Packers. He did. And it was Allen Lazard and MVS and stuff on the outside. Adams drew most of his targets from the slot.
Yeah.
But he should be playing out wide next year. And that is going to change. That's going to change things for him. Hunter Renfrow mans the slot. Darren Waller mans the short to intermediate area of the field. I expect Adams to operate more like
a deep threat.
He will operate more like a Mike Evans in this offense than he will ever have had prior to this, because he was much. Me too. But I do think the amount of targets, the quality of targets, and where those targets were coming to him in the certain area of the field has a lot to do with how safe Davante Adams has been over the last few seasons. And I think that the safety factor with him falls off to a certain extent. And I think his ceiling is wide receiver 5. But I can't rank him lower than that because of what he's done over the last few seasons.
So for what it's worth, real quick, last year, Aaron Rodgers in 16 games had 531 pass attempts. He missed one game. That was the season finale when the Packers were not playing for anything, I believe.
Right.
Derek Carr in 17 games, so one extra game, had 626 attempts. So he did in one more game throw the ball 95 more times. So there is potential for more volume, but yes, Carr is a little bit more of a distributor. So I think what Adams
never had the target competition in Green Bay.
Right. No, and what I was about to say, but what I was about to say is where he might lose in where he might lose in efficiency, he might make up a little bit more in volume, because the Raiders actually did throw the ball. Well, Carr threw the ball more than Rodgers in one extra game, but by almost 100 attempts. So just throwing that out there. Adams is 5th. Not arguing him to go higher. We both have him in the same spot.
I think we're drafting him at 5th is drafting him at his ceiling.
And I have he's not. He's the 5th ranked receiver. I'm drafting him at like the 1-2 turn.
Right.
But if I've got the 10th pick, if I've got anywhere from like the 9th, 10th, 11th pick, and any combination of the top 5 running backs and the top 4 receivers are gone, and maybe Kelsey's gone too, I have no problem taking Adams.
And this is
no issue taking Adams.
I have this issue here where I like the guy that I have 6th more than I like the guy that I have 5th.
Okay.
Davante Adams is amazing. Love Davante Adams. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. But I have many more question marks about what he will be, what his role is like, how he will fit into his offense and all that, than I have with Mike Evans. Same age. I expect Davante Adams on the field to look more like Mike Evans, and he will be playing a different role, largely a different role, one where he has to be more of a cog in the system versus just the alpha wide receiver who's getting targeted 9 times out of 10.
Hyper targeted,
right?
Yeah,
right. I mean, just not to take away anything from what Mike Evans has done in the past 8-9 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. I mean, Mike Evans in his own right, incredible.
Evans is a stud.
But based off
I have him 6th as well.
Based off of what he has been doing over the past few seasons and the target competition that he will see in Tampa Bay this year being the lowest amount of target competition he will have ever dealt with since Godwin got drafted there. Playing with arguably the best quarterback he's ever played with, and now everybody knows the system and all that. Like,
not arguably.
Agreed. Last season, Evans finished 15th in total air yards, 58th in target share. That math is stupid. That math is, I'm sorry, bro. That math is stupid.
And he
15th
still
in
put up
total air
1,000
yards, 58th in target share. You think he's going to be 58th in target share with Godwin out for half the season, with Gronk will still be back. We believe he plays. Not signed yet. With their number 2 wide receiver being Russell Gage. Yes, exactly. Antonio Brown not being part of this game plan at all. You think he's going to be 58th in target share?
Nope.
If he should double that. He should be top 25 in target share. And if he's top 25 in target share, and with the 58th most target share in the NFL, he finished 15th in total air yards. Think about what his air yards are going to be next season. Third in total routes run.
Yeah, he's got as good a chance as anybody to. I love looking for guys who have a chance to get off to strong starts because that builds momentum for the rest of the season. Yeah, Godwin is going to be rehabbing until October. Godwin's earliest return to play is likely October, and I'll do a video on Chris Godwin. Starting to roll out some redraft videos on guys where there's maybe some question marks on as a result of their 2021 season. Mm-hmm. So I'll do a Chris Godwin video at some point. I'm not saying it'll be this week, but I'll do something on Godwin. Anyway, I can mention it quickly here. His earliest return date is probably his earliest best case scenario return date is probably the beginning of October. And then you're talking about another, probably a minimum of 3 to 4 weeks of having to build back up again, find his rhythm, find his groove. We might not see the Chris Godwin that we're used to seeing in a best case scenario until November. Mike Evans has a chance to absolutely feast for the first month and a half in the season. And then you're just talking about building on a strong start from there, which is always something that I'm looking for in redraft.
Yeah, I mean, 2019 finish, wide receiver 12. 2020 finish, wide receiver 10. 2021 finish, wide receiver 8. It doesn't matter if Godwin comes back. He's still going to be a top beast. 12 wide receiver. But without Godwin,
he's got top
getting more than
7
a 58th ranked target share in the NFL.
Yeah,
Mike Evans is
Evans gonna feast.
Mike Evans, I would rather draft Mike Evans this year than Devontae Adams. So to me, I have Devontae Adams ranked 5th and Mike Evans ranked 6th. I'm probably gonna flip those. And probably have Mike Evans 5th and Devontae 6th. And the only reason I haven't is because of prior track record with what Devontae Adams has done over the last 2 seasons. But realistically, if I'm on the clock and I have the choice between Devontae Adams and Mike Evans, I'm taking Mike Evans.
Wow. Last I checked, I believe Mike Evans' ADP is around 18. The wide receivers going ahead of him are, of course, all 5 that we've mentioned so far, plus CeeDee Lamb and Deebo Samuel. So Mike Evans... we are, I would say, is the first receiver that we can definitively say we are both higher on relative to the first couple of rounds of the draft by a decent margin than consensus. I would rather have him over Deebo Samuel, who is currently, according to Underdog Fantasy, Mike Evans, ADP of 18.2. Deebo's ADP, 17.4. CeeDee Lamb's ADP is 13.3.
That's kind of wild.
And Devontae Adams' ADP is 11.1. I agree. Mike Evans is worthy of a pick as soon as the turn, the 1-2 turn. There are some running backs that I could prefer to have over him, namely, say, like the likes of DeAndre Swift. But as far as just comparing apples to apples, the wide receivers, he's the wide receiver 8 off the board. I would draft him as the wide receiver 6. John might flip his rankings and make him the wide receiver 5, but I'll keep him at wide receiver 6 for now. I definitively would rather have him over CeeDee Lamb. I would definitively rather have him over Deebo Samuel. Both make my top 10, my top 12, those 2 names, but I'd rather have Evans over both. We are officially stamping our claim. Mike Evans, we have higher than consensus. If you have a pick in the middle of the 2nd round and you're between Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, and Deebo Samuel, this channel is officially vouching for Mike Evans.
Yeah, again, with Antonio Brown, who, when he was playing, was one of the highest targeted wide receivers in the NFL. And
Yep.
with Godwin, who when he was playing was one of the highest targeted wide receivers in the NFL. In 2021, Mike Evans had 25 targets, or was 25th in targets, 11th in red zone targets, and 15th in air yards. 58th. I can't get over that number. 58th in target share is crazy. It's crazy.
Feast.
We're talking about other wide receiver ones having double the target share that he did. He had a 16.4% target share last year. Looking at the other wide receivers that we have ahead of him, I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, not Stephon Diggs, but those top three guys had target shares in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
So we're literally talking about doubling Mike Evans' projected target share over the first half of the season. It's crazy. I think Mike Evans is gonna smash, but I digress. You have Devontae Adams at 5th. I have Evans at 5th now, and
you're moving him
vice
up.
versa. So now we are down at 7, and now we can talk about CeeDee Lamb.
We can talk about CeeDee Lamb
because this is where I have CeeDee Lamb.
This is also where I have Lamb. Make no mistake, I think he's going to be excellent. I think the 13.3 ADP is a little ambitious, but the same. If we're going to pump Evans for reasons that we just did, Godwin rehabbing, no AB, we have to do the same thing for CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper is gone. Cedric Wilson has moved on. Michael Gallup is probably looking at a later return date than Godwin. We might not see Godwin till October. We might not see Gallup till November.
And that's didn't Gallup get hurt in Week 17?
No, it was sooner, or it was before that. But he suffered. He didn't have his surgery until I think it was February, which I'm not really sure why. So Gallup, I think, got hurt around the same time as Godwin, but had, for whatever reason, I don't know if there were issues where they needed to let swelling come down or whatever the case may be, but he had his surgery later. So Gallup is looking at a November timetable. Godwin is looking at an October timetable. So to that point, that's just another feather in CeeDee Lamb's cap. No Amari Cooper, Gallup rehabbing, probably longer than Godwin. Again, comparing Evans to CeeDee, and Cedric Wilson moves on for whatever that's worth. They replace those guys with Jalen Tolbert, who's a third-round pick, and James Washington from the Steelers. They also let Blake Jarwin walk for whatever that's worth. There is some turnover on this Cowboys offense.
165 vacated targets.
Yeah, so that's a lot of work available for CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
Faltered a little bit last year, but so did the Cowboys offense as a whole. They went through some stretches last year where they struggled relative to expectations, which is why I feel a little bit more comfortable. That's what, Brady versus Dak. The Cowboys had no problem feasting on the NFC East last year, which obviously they keep all 6 of those games. But outside of the division, they struggled. They were inconsistent. So I'll take the continuity and stability that Brady brings to the table, throwing the ball to Evans. That's my slight edge that I give to Evans, plus the pedigree that Evans has built as far as 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons. Whereas CeeDee, we expect big things, and we know he's got a promising young career ahead of him, and he's right there as in the dynasty conversation. He's a run below the likes of Jefferson and Chase. But as far as long-term prospects, he's absolutely in that top 5 conversation at the position. But for the 2022 season, given the struggles that the Cowboys had last year, that's why he's at 7 and not a little bit higher. That being said, if we're going to pump Evans for the lack of ancillary options, we have to give Lamb similar love. 13.3 ADP is a little ambitious for me.
After last year,
or
before last year, he was thought of as one of those guys. He was thought of as a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, top 3 dynasty wide receiver in the NFL, if not a top 3 wide receiver outright. This past year, despite the fact that he had over 1,000 yards for the first time in his career and had more touchdowns than he did in 2020, people are down on him. And I believe, I kind of am too. like a 23-year-old wide receiver who's done what he has should be high. And with the targets vacated in this offense, again, 165 vacator targets, I feel like I have him too low. I just can't put him up any higher because
I don't.
He struggled
I mean,
last year,
yeah.
but wide receiver 18 in points per game, wide receiver 18 finished the year before that in his rookie season, wide receiver 20. So he isn't like rookie wide receiver coming into the league top 10 wide receiver in points per game. He's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase. He is a step below. He's what I believe to be, he's in a tier by himself. He's in a tier by himself for me.
Like he's he's still a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. But that's not the conversation we're having.
No. What he did do is last year he finished with a 20.4 target share percentage, 24.4 air yard share, 21 deep targets, 406 yards after the catch, which ranked 15th.
Pretty good.
Yards per target was 20th in the league, and yards per route run was 12th. So
the potential is there.
The potential is there. He did well in a couple of key metrics, and we expect him to have more targets.
Oh, yeah.
His yards per route run is top 12. It was number 12 last year. I mean, literally the only thing that's standing in his way based off of what he did last year and is workload. And he has workload in his favor. He has a quarterback that's good enough to get it done. There is no other alpha wide receiver there to take away targets from him. Even when Gallup comes back, Gallup isn't that type of guy. Neither is Jalen Tolbert. I mean, he's pretty unquestioned. When we talk about other wide receivers who have pretty much unquestioned workloads, we're talking about guys like Justin Jefferson. We're talking about guys like Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Mike Evans. And CeeDee Lamb, I believe, falls into that territory.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to see it once where he doesn't finish wide receiver 18.
Right.
He's like young Mike Will for me.
I mean, he might have a little bit more potential than that, but yeah. 111 targets his rookie season, upped it by 9 in his second season, 120 targets. 74 catches year 1, 79 catches year 2. The big difference is he turned those 5 extra catches into about 150, maybe 175 more yards. So he was more efficient in that regard. 5 touchdowns year 1, 6 touchdowns year 2. So 11 total for his career. He chipped in a rushing score his rookie season. So we expect the targets to go up. I got to imagine, especially with Amari Cooper out of the picture, there's the 150 targets is well within his capabilities.
Yes.
Like he can absolutely see an increase in targets by 30.
I expect him to, especially with the wide receivers he's going to be playing with early in the season next year.
So if that translates, say, into another 15 or 20 catches, he can threaten for a 100 catch season. We just haven't seen him do it yet at that elite level. We've seen him be very, very good. We've seen him be excellent. We haven't seen him done it quite yet at the that elite next level tier level. That being said, 7 clearly, I think vouches for the potential that he has and that we do ultimately believe in him. I don't have a problem with the fact that I can't move him higher because this is not a scenario where I'm saying I wish I could move him higher. I think we have him properly rated and where he as high as he could potentially go.
No,
I don't think there's an argument for him over anybody else that we have so far.
The guys that we have below him deserve to be below him. The guys that we have ahead of him deserve to be ahead of him. He's I'll say it again, he's kind of in a tier by himself, and he falls right in the middle of our rankings here. And I think that's fair for CeeDee Lamb. I do.
Yep, agreed. And now that we have officially reached over halfway, we will round out the next 5 guys to bring us home. But let's get to the chat a little bit here, just to get
Yes,
caught
sir.
up. Johnny's just looking for a little bit more confirmation on the trade for to give up Fournette to acquire Pittman. Yes. I know giving up running back depth can always be scary, especially when you're a contender.
Honestly, I wouldn't be thinking about it too hard. I would go and get Pittman and then go and get guys like Darrell Williams on the back end. Go and get guys that you can that are just fill-in running backs that can keep you afloat from week to week from the running back position, but won't cost you a ton. But just getting Pittman for Fournette is a win.
In Dynasty,
so
a win.
You have to make that move. Even if you're worried about your running backs moving forward, you go ahead and then make other moves to solidify your running back core. If you can get Pittman for Fournette straight up, if you can save 3 to 4 years and switch to a position with more longevity in wide receiver and get a young wide receiver 1, which is what he is, you go for it.
Yep.
Even if you're giving up an older, aging running back 1 that has upside to be a top 6, top 8 running back this year. It's kind of like,
but that might be it.
Look at the situation that Fournette is in. Brady could retire this offseason in the 2023 offseason. Fournette could go elsewhere real quick. Like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are kind of on that knife's edge, where as soon as Brady leaves, and he already retired once and then unretired once, as soon as Brady leaves, the whole team, there's going to be a mass exodus. We almost saw it this past offseason. Before Brady recommitted to the Bucs, there was almost a mass exodus there. We were thinking of Chris Godwin probably moving on. We thought, okay, Leonard Fournette probably moving on. Gronk not coming back. What's this team going to look like?
Multiple
and then Brady
linemen
came back.
Retired.
Brady came back.
Or not retired.
Fournette
One retired.
came back.
One moved on in free agency. Yeah.
Right. As soon as Brady moves on, you're going to wish you would have pressed that button and gotten Pittman. You are.
Yep.
So just go ahead and do it. You'll feel good about it later. You will.
Do that deal.
And Crumply Heads, what should I get going from the 301 to the 304? I mean, if you can pick up a couple of fourths, if you can pick up a later third, like if you're going from the 301 to the 304 and you can pick up the 311, 312.
Yeah, if you can get the 310, 311.
If you can get a third next year, if you can get a couple of fourths this year, and you got the taxi squad spots for him, or the bench spots for him, something like that.
Yeah. Third next year and a fourth the year after that, or just, a third. You're moving down just 3 spots, but pick up a third in 2023, pick up a couple fourths this year. It depends. Are there prospects that are still on the board this year that you're intrigued by? If yes, see if you can pick up the 310 or say like the 402 and the 411 or something like that. If you're not, if you're like, I just want to get Jelani and, I wouldn't mind grabbing an asset down the road, get a 2023 third. See if they'll throw in a 2024 fourth or something like that. Just stockpile assets. Depends on what you're looking at this year. If there's anything extra in these later rounds that you're interested in adding, then try it for this year. If there's not, pick something up next year. Pick up a 2023 third.
Yeah. Yeah, but also I have no problem you picking up something later on in the third or a fourth and you going double down on that tight end group and get Jelani Woods at the 304 and then see if you can get Dan Bellinger somewhere in the fourth. Like, try something like that. That might work out for you. We both saw Dan Bellinger go 412, the mystery relevant pick in a league. So he's worth more than that. So
it was
if you
reported
double
in
down,
OTAs that Bellinger was getting already run with the first team offense.
As he should. The other competition he has there is Ricky Seals-Jones some other rookie tight end who's done nothing. Does Swift fall off? No.
No, that man
No.
averaged 18 fantasy points a game last year. Yeah.
Honestly, them taking away some work from him
Might be good.
might get him to the point where he can make it through more than 13 games in a season, which is where he's topped out at in each of his past 2 seasons. Yeah, I mean, they were giving him the ball. There was a game last year where they gave him the ball 30 times on the
30
ground.
times. Yeah.
And that was a game that he was playing with Hawkinson. I remember having Hawkinson and just being like, why aren't they using him?
Why?
This is crazy.
Why
aren't they using him? Hawkinson is right there. And they just continued to feed the rock to DeAndre Swift 30 times. So if they scaled back his workload a little bit, it might mean that he's healthy for a full season. I don't think he falls off.
No.
I don't think he falls off at all.
Averaged 18 points per game last year, and that offensive line is already really good.
Yo, Hunter, what's going on? Good to see you.
Hey, man. What's going on, dude?
P. Diddy, Papa Diddy, Puff, what's happening?
What's up, P. Diddy? Slim, you were watching us in the movie theater? Okay. Good to know the new Jurassic Park movie is good. That's pretty funny. Hopefully we weren't distracting anybody. Maybe I had earbuds in. But that's still that blue screen. I don't know. As far as trying to get Tolbert off waivers, I think we were talking about this earlier in the Discord. Slim was asking if he should drop Terrace Marshall to pick up Jalen Tolbert. I said no. Terrace Marshall has low stock right now, but second round draft capital from LSU. He's got higher draft capital than Tolbert. Probably a better prospect than Tolbert. Just didn't, Tolbert might make an impact early this year, but I still believe in I'm intrigued by Marshall long term because the Panthers might not be far away from finally addressing the quarterback position. And Marshall only just turned 22, so he's still very young and younger than Tolbert. That being said, and he's got a slew of running backs like Marlon Mack, Darrell Williams, Kareem Hunt, but like behind guys like McCaffrey, ETN, Breece Hall, and A.J. Dillon. So I was saying try to package a running back or two to create a roster space instead of pick up a draft pick instead of outright cutting a promising young player. So if you can get Tolbert, do it. But I'm still intrigued enough in Terrace Marshall where I don't want to drop him yet. But if you can create a roster spot for Jalen Tolbert, by all means, do it.
But if you could trade, if you had Terrace Marshall on your squad, and somebody hit you up and DM'd you and said, "Hey man, I want Marshall. I'll give you Tolbert right now." What would you say to that? I'd say, yeah, let's do that right now.
Revisionist history is, for me, that's like, I think that's taken the easy way out. Marshall wasn't he a high second round pick last year? And in some cases, maybe in one quarterback leagues, he might've been an early first round pick in rookie drafts. Second round draft capital out of LSU. He injured his foot last year. He went on IR to end the season. So it was obviously a year to forget, but that's a talent that I'm just not ready to give up on. He's still younger than Tolbert. Tolbert's entering the league as a 23-year-old. Marshall's now in his second season as a 22-year-old. I know Tolbert right now is clearly in the better position and right now has a chance to make an impact right away. But if the Panthers slosh through another bad season and are in position to get a good young quarterback prospect next year, plus Robbie Anderson is approaching his age 30 season and is threatening retirement. His other competition outside of DJ Moore is Rashard Higgins, who's a 27-year-old returner for his career. I'm not ready to give up on Marshall. I know he did nothing last year.
I never said I was ready to give up on Marshall.
Would I trade him straight up for Tolbert 1-for-1?
Would I rather have Tolbert?
No. Right now, I would say no.
Okay.
Tolbert's a third-round pick. Marshall was a second-round pick. Tolbert comes from a smaller school. Marshall went to LSU. Marshall is a year younger and in his second season, year of seasoning under his belt. Obviously, you prefer Dak Prescott to whoever the quarterback is for the Panthers this year, but the Panthers sooner than later are going to address the quarterback position in a big way. Could be as soon as 2023.
I don't disagree with your assessment, but I think you can play this game right now where like you can get Jalen Tolbert. We both
Slim.
think that Terrace Marshall is going to. We might have to wait another year before we actually see Terrace Marshall. What we thought we were drafting in Terrace Marshall come to fruition. But by that time, Jalen Tolbert will have played like half the season, basically as the wide receiver 2 for Dallas, and probably racking up more points than Terrace Marshall. You could pick up Jalen Tolbert and then trade Jalen Tolbert to the guy who picks up Terrace Marshall for Terrace Marshall plus. If you want to play the game, I think that's something that you can do. If
Slim got his phone stolen, and apparently I was talking to his buddy.
Oh, well, I haven't gotten that far.
Dude, how did that happen?
I haven't gotten that far in the chat, but yo.
Oh, man, I would punch him in the face. How would that happen? Or how did that happen? Oh, man. I'd beat his ass. I'd beat your friend's. Oh, man. Okay, well, I'm sorry I was talking to your friend and not you.
Oh, well, yeah. Oops.
I'd beat his ass.
My point stands, but since it was your friend, they don't get any more insider information from us.
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel swindled. Not that that's your fault, Slim, but.
P. Diddy has a question that I believe applies to you as well as a Watson owner in a 2QB league. Would you guys spend a 23 first to get Watson in a 2QB league?
If you're acquiring Watson, no. Because we could be legitimately we're probably looking at a year-long suspension.
I would trade a 24 first.
To acquire Deshaun Watson, play the long game.
Yeah. I have no problem. I would have
no.
No problem spending a 24 first to get Watson.
23 first, no.
23 first, I mean, that could end up being Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. We don't know. It's tough because we know what Watson's ceiling is. And we believe at some point within the next 3 seasons, he will be playing for the NFL.
He will play
some
again.
Team. He will be playing again.
I do not think he's about to be banished.
3 seasons. Might it take a year? Sure. That's what I would hypothesize. Might it take even 2 years? Honestly, if the NFL were any sort of stand-up organization in that respect, that is what we should be expecting. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's tough,
well,
man.
To that point, I think Watson the NFL has a chance to make a real statement here.
Watson, me too. Watson is worth a 23 first value alone. He's worth more than that.
He's worth more than that.
He's worth more than that.
But we don't know that we might not see him again until there's a non-zero chance we don't see him again until 2025.
Then, yeah.
2024.
If somebody's like, yo, I want a first for Watson, make it a 24 first. A 23 first, little too much, little too rich. Got to let it play out. Still a lot of unknowns here. But I do agree with you that the NFL is in a prime position to make a statement with how they handle this Watson situation moving forward because they've already messed it up.
They've
already messed
it
up by not really speaking on it and letting the process play out by itself. They've already messed up. The only way they can really save face here in the public eye is to throw the book at him, to me, which means at least a year, if not 2. I can't give up a 23 first for somebody who might not play for 2 full seasons, despite how good they are at football.
Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow.
But if you can make it a 24 first, I would do that.
You would give up a 24 first to acquire Watson. Yes. What you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Honestly, I'd give up a 24 plus. To get Watson, I would probably give up a 24 plus because of what Watson is when he's on the field. And we're not expecting him to never play again.
No, we're expecting him to return at some point.
And we know next to nothing about the 24 draft class as it stands right now. just got finished with the 22 class. And honestly, we haven't really we've only been through the draft process. We haven't seen them even on the field yet. But yeah, if you could trade a 24 first for Watson, I would do it. 23, not so much. But Hunter, I'm glad you're back. Been a while.
Yeah, man.
Glad you could join us.
I think it was some college got in the way, right? I think that's the
man.
case.
But we missed having
Those
Hunter
damn
Rappaport
finals.
in the chat, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks for stopping in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Watson's interviews, these are the questions that he's probably going to have to answer whenever he's in front of a mic for the next couple of years. Probably.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what it was like with Ben Roethlisberger back in the day. How long it took him to stop getting those questions thrown his way. That was also a completely different time from a
completely different timeline and completely. I mean, didn't have it was I don't remember the number of counts.
Watson's
but it wasn't
never gonna not answer these.
It wasn't 26.
Even when Watson comes back after the suspension, he will never not answer these questions. There's no way he can get out from under answering questions regarding this whole situation that he put himself in. So I don't feel bad for him. He did that, so now he has to deal with the repercussions of it. It's a real weird situation. It's a real weird situation.
Yeah.
And he's not being asked about his teammates or the Browns because, I mean, why would they? Why would anybody ask Deshaun Watson about the teammates and the Browns?
It's like the media. The media has to do this. They have to ask these questions, even though we all know Deshaun is not going to answer anything about his legal situation. This is what, if he's in front of the cameras, if there's a mic in front of Deshaun Watson's face and he's talking, the bottom line is most of the audience, then it doesn't matter who it is, Browns fans, the people that are in his life that he knows or impacted as a result of this, fantasy football people or whomever have you, the majority of people want to hear him talk about this to whatever extent he's going to.
And it doesn't get old because new news comes out every week. Like, we had 2 consecutive weeks of somebody else adding themselves to the 22 counts of whatever he's been dealing with.
Yeah, it's not going to go away.
Now it's up to 25, I believe. 24, 26. See, boom, 26.
I think like it's 26.
He can't get away from it. There's no lull here. Things keep happening to where he continues to have to answer for the same questions with different situations attached because there's another person comes forward. Now there's this HBO special where they're getting FaceTime on national television in front of everybody. His accusers are coming out and being able to talk about it. And then there's also his, and we want to switch back to talking about our wide receiver rankings in a sec here, but there's also the standpoint that his lawyer isn't helping him out at all. His lawyer is putting him in arguably worse situations than he would have been otherwise.
Yeah, some of the responses, it's like his PR team needs some serious training.
Yeah, dude.
On what to be telling him, what to say. If
it wasn't so serious, it's comical. If it wasn't so serious.
Yeah.
But the allegations are serious, so you can't call it comical. But not at all.
And he's not going to escape it. So.
But it's such a involved situation, man. Like, it's sad for everybody involved.
It's sad. It's sad that this has to be something that we ever have to talk about, regardless of what it entails and involves.
And it's weird on a lot of different levels that we're a fantasy football channel. We're not going to get into right now, but the whole thing is weird on a lot of levels, dude. A lot of levels. But regardless, I wouldn't be trading a 23 first for him.
No. I guess a 2024
he needs Johnny
first.
Depp's team ASAP. Bro, I don't even think Johnny Depp's team could save him because Johnny Depp was likable.
But that's the thing. The public was on Johnny Depp's side for the most part.
The whole thing. Yeah, pretty much.
That being said, his legal team did do a very good job. But
very good job.
But also at the same time, people were rooting for Johnny. I would say I would say a sizable majority was rooting for Johnny. That's not the case here.
And this is coming off of basically a stellar track record of being a great person, good all-around person, good teammate, good in the all the extracurricular things that come with being a franchise quarterback. He was active in the community, and like his fall from grace here, Deshaun Watson's, is kind of crazy when you think about it, because he was thought of as a one on the forefront of social activism from the NFL standpoint. As far as NFL players, he
came from nothing. Like right, it's always like right. He came from nothing. You know, it was something where he had the opportunity to give back, not just to his family, but
he was one of the most likable players in the
NFL. He was very likable.
And then this happened, and now nobody wants to root for him. So it would take more than Johnny Depp's legal.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while.
This one,
we're a long way off from the end of this story.
But let's get back to these rankings.
So to that point, yeah, we so far actually we're pretty much in lockstep so far, I think, for the top 7.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams. John, you moved Mike Evans, I think, officially ahead of Devontae Adams. Yep. So that's where we differ. So John has Evans at 5. I have Adams at 5. I have Evans at 6. John has Adams at 6. We both have CeeDee Lamb at 7. John, who do you have as your 8th receiver?
This is a guy that I have a lot, and this is now like I'm not going to say a problem tier. But there are two guys here that I have back to back where it's like this is tough. This is tough. This is tough. And the first guy is Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
Number 2 wide receiver last year, number 3 in points per game. But I mean, his usage has to be a question mark. His quarterback has to be a question mark. Look, in 2021, he led the league in yards per carry rushing the ball with an 18.2 yards per carry. And he had 8 rushing touchdowns, the most ever by a wide receiver in a season. This was a guy after the league year ended where we were both talking about it might be the best time to sell Deebo Samuel if you have him in Dynasty. And I know this isn't a Dynasty conversation, but just because he was coming off of an unrepeatable season. We talk about Cooper Kupp's unrepeatable season. Almost just as much of an unrepeatable season as what Deebo Samuel did on the ground as a wide receiver. 8 rushing touchdowns, most ever by a wide receiver in a season. Yards per carry on the ground of 18.2. Through week 17, Samuel had more rushing touchdowns of 10-plus yards than 23 NFL teams. Okay?
Yeah,
the guy's going to come back to earth. He is, and that's why we have him ranked at wide receiver 8th. I believe you have him at 8 too.
No,
you don't. You have him a little bit. Okay,
then I have 10 for the similar concerns, but maybe to a bigger extreme.
Yeah, I mean, you take in all that into account. They drafted TDP. They still have Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell. Those rushing totals are going to come down. They're moving from Jimmy G to Lance, so the passing attempt should go down in the offense.
1,400 yards
Kittle's
through
still
the air
there.
might not happen.
Deebo Samuel benefited from Brandon Ayuk being in the doghouse for the first 7 to 8 games last year before Kyle Shanahan finally let him out, and he was able to kind of redeem his value a little bit in the dynasty community and in just fantasy football in general. But prior to that, I mean, it was the Deebo Samuel show. It just was. And I don't think he's going to be as featured to the extent that he was last year, even through the air. Taking out the fact that he had 8 rushing touchdowns and still only finished wide receiver 3 by fantasy points per game. Like, he's going to come back down to earth.
Yeah.
I probably have him ranked here at his ceiling. And honestly, wide receiver 10 sounds more realistic than wide receiver 8 for Deebo Samuel. So I might have to do some shuffling here because he, on top of everything that we've talked about from a regression standpoint. In 2017, broken fibula out for the season. 2020, Jones fracture out for the season. He has picked up season-ending injuries that he's so far come back from, to his credit.
Yeah.
But he's nobody's picture of durability.
Last year was the first year.
There you go.
Last year was the first year. And look, I don't want to turn this into like a poo-poo Deebo Samuel party, because we still have him ranked as a top 10 receiver because he's an excellent player with an incredibly dynamic skill set.
Yeah, take all this with a grain of salt.
The
We're
problem
talking about
is
splitting hairs in the top 10.
Yeah. The problem is Deebo himself is the one who doesn't want to run the football anymore. His name was in trade rumors all off season because he was afraid, or he was concerned, that the 49ers were going to try to hedge on his contract extension by trying to kind of pay him in between being a running back and a wide receiver. Deebo wants to go back to being a wide receiver, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that his rushing touchdowns goes from 8 to 0.
Yeah.
Now, will he continue to be used in a bit of a wildcat role? Yes. They're not going to totally go away from it, but it might be more like 1 to 2 scores on the ground, not 8. And it might be 1,000 yards receiving, but it might not be 1,400, because we just don't know where Trey Lance is in his development as a passer. All we know is it seems to be the growing belief that eventually Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be traded, and they will, in fact, turn the franchise over to Trey Lance, which we obviously have expected all along. They traded 3 first-round picks for the opportunity to draft the guy. But Trey Lance, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. He didn't qualify as far as being able to chart where he landed as far as passer rating and advanced passing statistics, because he didn't play enough last year. So it's going to be incredibly hard to see that transition from Jimmy G, who's not exactly a world beater at the position, but is a little bit more of a polished passer, at least at this point in his career, than we think Trey Lance is. Trey Lance might be excellent. Trey Lance might be a great long-term prospect. Is Trey Lance going to fire right away as a passer? We don't know. So for that point, with the built-in regression that we expect, especially on the ground, I have Deebo at wide receiver 10.
I mean,
you have him at wide receiver 8.
We both agree, especially on the ground. But last year, 2021, 120 targets. He was not getting an elite target share. He was just doing the most with them. 77 receptions, 1,400 yards per reception of 18.2. That's pretty insane.
That's Deebo being Deebo, and that's the feather in his cap. That's what he does, maybe better than anybody. Deebo is better with the football in his hands, yards after the catch, than anybody in the NFL.
But air yard share, he was 36th in air yard share last year.
Yeah, Deebo's elite at running with the ball after the catch. That's what he does. That's what he brings to the table. I would venture to argue that he is tops in the league in that department, and that's the feather in Deebo's cap. He's great with the ball in his hands after the catch. And I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not trying to say, but after that, that's just the fact. He's great yards after the catch. But yes, well, okay, I just said, but he's going to have to be excellent, not just good. He's going to need to be excellent in that department once again, transitioning to a young quarterback.
He was
probably not running the ball as much.
He was the #1 wide receiver in fantasy points per route run and fantasy points per target. And I don't know if we can expect that in two straight years.
It's going to be hard to duplicate. I root for Deebo. I love Deebo the talent. He's so much fun to watch. He's going to get at best a fraction of his rushing totals if we expect that to play out the way we do, which includes Deebo's desire to not be used as a running back.
So if Deebo Samuel is your wide receiver 10, who did you have at 8?
My wide receiver 8 is Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
And maybe this is a bit of like, to your point, it's apples to oranges, ranking Derrick Henry at 5, ranking Devontae Adams at 5. Derrick Henry for running back, Devontae Adams a wide receiver. a tip of the cap for the career achievements to this point. Tyreek Hill remains the most dangerous wide receiver in the NFL from a big play perspective. Now, yes, it is a significant drop-off going from the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes to the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. Significant drop-off. But this is a career giving Tyreek the flowers that he has earned for the stellar career that he has put together thus far. We do not believe in Tua as a deep ball thrower relative compared to Patrick Mahomes. Not even close. Literally every metric, advanced or basic, as a passer, of course we give the nod to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but he came out himself and said, "Oh," and this is pure player speak. "Oh, Tua's a more accurate quarterback."
He would take Tua from an
accuracy perspective. From an arm strength perspective, it's Mahomes, no doubt. But Tua's it's not. He's not. If you look at the numbers, Tua is a less accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. Too. He's just saying that.
He has. You're right. He has to say that. He can. What do you want him to say? Mahomes is better than Tua. It's not close. Good luck, Tua. Like he can't.
He doesn't
say that.
have to say anything.
He can pump up his guy.
But it is better than hearing nothing. I will say that. But go on.
So anyway, this is obviously a downgrade in a situation. However, the other side of that coin is that for the first time in at least 3 or 4 years, Tyreek has an ADP just outside of 20. For good reason. And I'm not done my thought. I'm just going in and confirming what it officially is. Tyreek Hill's ADP is 20.9, so essentially 21. You can have him at the end of the second round, and maybe depending on your league, depending on how many people are maybe out on him because of his new situation, you might be able to get him at the top of the third round in 12-team leagues. You're drafting him pretty close to his floor. Now, obviously, we're not expecting a Kansas City ceiling with Tyreek Hill because he's not in Kansas City anymore. But if I can draft Tyreek Hill at 21 versus someone like CeeDee Lamb at 13, that's a roll of the dice that I'm willing to gamble on. I think he soaks up 130 targets or so minimum. Where he may not make up, where he may falter in big plays and deep ball catches because of concerns about Tua's deep ball accuracy, I think he can make up for in maybe another career high in catches. And the last thing I'll say, we saw Tyreek Hill, not obviously to the extent of Deebo Samuel, but we saw Tyreek Hill in at times in spurts in that hybrid running back role with Andy Reid. And the new head coach, Mike McDaniel, comes from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. I think this offense could be dynamic, might not be the word, creative and innovative enough to find enough ways to get a player of Tyreek's caliber the ball in plus and positive situations that maximizes his talents. The quarterback drop-off is significant, but the player remains elite. So out of respect for Tyreek Hill and what he brings to the table, I am ranking him my wide receiver 8 for the 2022 season.
And he is my wide receiver 9.
Okay, not too far off.
He does kind of have that Devontae Adams the 2022 Devontae Adams feel, where we are kind of ranking him here. Yes, but we are ranking him more based off of the fact that we are ranking him here based off of what he's done in the past versus what we project him to do this year and into the future. This is kind of like we can't put Tyreek Hill any lower than this.
No, I can't do it.
But just considering all that, I think I am lower on him than you are. I will also just caveat that with I agree with you that the investment that you're going to have to make in Tyreek Hill is more enticing given the fact that the investment capital is much less than we've ever had to spend to get Tyreek Hill on your squad, and guys like CeeDee Lamb are being drafted a round ahead of him. So yeah, I get that. Tyreek Hill is, based on where he's being drafted, technically a value when viewed through the lens of what he's done in the past. In 2021, 159 targets, ranked 7th.
Pretty good.
Targets per snap rate ranked 3rd with 19.2%. He was number 3 in air yards with 1,709 air yards. His yards per route run ranked 11th in the NFL. So he was getting a ton of yards. He was getting a ton of targets, and he finished fantasy football, the 2021 fantasy football season, as the number 6th wide receiver. He was 6th in red zone targets, 9th in deep targets, 3rd in receptions, 17th in air yards. I don't think he sees the red zone targets he saw in KC.
Probably
I don't
not.
think he sees the deep targets that he saw in KC. I don't think he sees the receptions that he saw in KC, and I don't think he sees the air yards that he saw in KC. So the biggest metrics for him, based off of what he's done over the past few seasons and how he's succeeded, I expect every single one of those totals to come down.
I agree with all of them except for potential for catches.
I mean,
air yards, yes. Targets, yes. Deep ball targets, yes.
I think there's a potential for catches too, because yes, they brought in Hill and paid what they had to get him. They're not going to not use him. I get that.
They paid the prettiest of pennies.
That narrative is always there. They paid what they had to got paid up to get him, and they're going to use him because of that. But they have Jalen Waddle waiting in the wings there. They did re-sign Gesicki, who is basically a glorified wide receiver, playing from the tight end position. They signed Cedric Wilson. They added
Chase Edmonds.
They added Chase Edmonds, right? I mean, they added a bunch of pass catchers to this offense to make it more varied, more versatile, and that's all well and good.
And it's
that
put up or shut up time for
targets.
Tua.
That it is, which is a completely different
story. Yeah.
But with respect to Tyreek Hill, I cannot say with any sort of certainty that the targets will match up to what he's gotten in the past on the Dolphins based on the personnel that they have around him. Now, and we are talking about the 2022 season.
Right.
So I can't, we can speculate, Gesicki was only signed for 1 year, so after this 1 year, even more targets for Tyreek Hill. Throw that out the window. We're talking about 2022. And in 2022, his targets are going not way down, but they're going down. And they're going to be less fantasy relevant targets because they're not going to be those deep targets that he got in KC. The air yard totals are going to go down. I can bet you that Patrick Mahomes was in the red zone or will be in the red zone, was in the red zone more the past few seasons than Tua will be this season. He takes a hit. And yes, Tyreek Hill was top 4 wide receiver perennially. Dropping him down to 9 with all that in mind almost feels conservative. It does. And you look at wide receivers who moved to teams, not counting DeAndre Hopkins and Stephon Diggs. Like, yes, those free agent acquisitions for wide receivers, that worked out. Historically, that doesn't work out. Historically, when you bring in a wide receiver through free agency, historically, there is a drop-off. It just happens. And yes, in recent memory, that hasn't been the case. With Tyreek Hill moving to Tua, with Jalen Waddle there, with Gesicki there, with the other people that they brought into that offense. Man, I am worried about Tyreek Hill. And I'm almost at the point where, just like with Devontae Adams, I was like, you know what? I'd rather have the guy that I had ranked behind him,
one spot
over
below
him. I don't know if I can say that for Tyreek Hill, but I want to say that, if that makes sense.
Fair enough. Yeah, there's plenty of concerns. I can't have him ranked lower than 8th for knowing what he brings to the table, despite the drop-off in situation.
We're giving him to it because he's earned it, but as far as 2022 rankings, I feel like I'm still being a little bit too bullish on what Tyreek Hill can do on the Dolphins. And maybe that's just me being down on the Dolphins.
Okay.
I respect that is a possibility out there because
sure.
I am down on the Dolphin. Player, don't want to take anything away from him. He played in the offense that worked to his strengths. He was the best offense for his strengths. In case.
Well, Patrick Mahomes can do that for a lot of people, but yes, yeah.
And now he goes to one where basically two of his strengths are kind of work better with the Waddle.
Accuracy.
They work better with the Waddle than they do theoretically with Hill. We haven't seen it. We will see it this year. We'll see how it plays out. I just think there's a possibility that Tyreek Hill could even be, wide receiver 12, wide receiver 11, and I have him ranked as high as I do because of past production, and that's just where I am on him.
Fair enough.
So you're higher on him than I am.
I'm a little higher on him. I'm a little higher on him just because of the opportunity cost getting him at the end of the second round.
I respect your point there, and I agree with you there.
So I'll put him at 8. You have him at 9.
Yeah.
You have Debo at 8. I have him down at 10. So I need to go over my guy at 9. And we already talked about his teammate in Jamar Chase. So obviously that's a giveaway. This is where I have T. Higgins, and maybe this is a little bullish. It is a little bullish. I'm definitely higher on Higgins than consensus. And we were talking off stream earlier that the advanced metrics don't exactly jump off the page as it pertains to T. Higgins, but he just got it done on the stat sheet. 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns this year. I was sold his rookie season when he almost topped 1,000 yards as the wide receiver 1 as a rookie, catching passes from Brandon Allen after Joe Burrow tore up his knee. I think it was like week 10 or 11 of his rookie season. Still finished the season strong. Is currently a consensus top 12 receiver off the board in redraft leagues. I have concerns about Deebo Samuel. There's a couple of more concerns about the other players being drafted around him. You have concerns about Tyreek Hill. Higgins is going later than Tyreek Hill. I still have Tyreek rated ahead of him just because Tyreek on paper is a team's wide receiver 1, whereas T. Higgins is maybe the best number 2 in the NFL, but it's a damn good offense to be attached to be a number 2 wide receiver. We already talked about the excellence that Jamar Chase brings to the table and how it's going to make it kind of difficult when you have another player of Higgins' caliber on the other side. It's like, what do you do in that situation? And again, Burrow is another year removed from the knee injury. You have to think that his confidence continues to go up, and again, behind an improved offensive line. The scoring opportunities should remain abundant for the Bengals, especially if we expect the defense to regress a little bit after overachieving in 2021. For everything that we said about believing in Jamar Chase, to a lesser extent, of course, but we have to feel the same good way about T. Higgins. This is a great passing attack to be attached to. Higgins is a great young player, Clemson product. We like we like high second round draft capital from big schools, big successful schools. You love to see that in a prospect. Higgins is entering his 3rd year. While he's probably not going to hit like a 1,400 yard mark, I think 1,200 yards is well within his range. I think a 75 target type of season is in his range. If he's able to score 7-8 touchdowns, he's going to be a low end wide receiver 1 with those types of numbers. And again, with Joe Burrow, 2 years now removed from the knee injury, I have no reason to believe that the volume goes up for this team. T. Higgins obviously is a primary beneficiary of that. Maybe I'm a little higher on him than the consensus, but I'm planting my flag. Wide receiver 9 for the 2022 season, T. Higgins.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I have him as my wide receiver 12, and to the point that we were making before the live stream, yeah, nothing really jumps out when I'm looking at his advanced metrics outside of yards per target and catchable target rate. Those two things for me do stand out. Yards per target, he was 8th in the league with 9.9 yards per target. Pretty good.
That's good.
And guess what? That number could go up higher now that they have an O-line, because Joe Burrow can stand behind the O-line.
That extra half a
extend
second.
plays a little bit longer, right, and get the ball to T. Higgins further down the field. So he finished 8th in the NFL in that metric. He can grow in that metric. Or in that area. The other metric that I point to here is the catchable target rate. He had the 3rd most catchable targets in the NFL, because Joe Burrow is just that good as a passer.
Get good players attached to good quarterbacks.
Those two things aren't changing for T. Higgins anytime soon, and the fact that he has Jamar Chase in his 2nd season on the other side of him just means that he's usually gonna be open.
To see one-on-one coverage a lot.
Right. And he can win that one-on-one coverage any day of the week. The target's accurate. His yards per reception, yards per target are going to go up with that O-line. And we talk a lot about Jamar Chase in his 2nd season in the league. It's T. Higgins' 3rd, and the 3rd-year breakout was a thing for wide receivers for a long time. Now, T. Higgins already broke out, but he can absolutely continue to grow and will continue to grow as a wide receiver as his career goes on, and that 3rd-year step could be a big one for him. He was, wide receiver 12 in fantasy points per game?
So he's already been he's proven he can produce low-end wide receiver 1 numbers.
And there were times last year where there was a stretch of games last year where T. Higgins was putting up more fantasy points per game than Jamar Chase, and it wasn't a small sample size. I believe it was a 6-game stretch. T. Higgins was putting up more points per game than Jamar Chase was, which is saying something. I know he has a year on him and all that, but that's saying something, and you don't do that without talent in your own right. I don't hate having T. Higgins that high at all. He feels like the next Godwin, where yes, there's an Evans in his wide receiver room, but all that does is make it so that Godwin is facing secondary coverage, reduced coverage on a down-to-down basis, and can exploit that to his advantage. And T. Higgins is in the same position on the Bengals and their offense. I know you expect some sort of Super Bowl hangover.
I do.
But
for what it's worth, I do.
Better,
The
Jamar
team could
Chase
regress a little
better,
bit.
Joe Burrow being healthy, one year removed from the injuries that derailed him in his first season in the league. I mean, the sky's the limit for both of these guys. We've seen it in the past where 2 wide receivers from the same team can definitely finish in the top 12 in any given year. Godwin and Evans have done it. Thielen and Jefferson have done it. Even Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf did it. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase can absolutely do that in 2022.
Yep, 108 targets his rookie season, 110 targets last year. He can absolutely improve on that. He can improve on the 1,000 yards he put up last year. And again, if I expect, there could be a bit of a hangover, but this is a young team. This is a young offense with firepower. If the defense regresses a little bit, he can absolutely improve in the touchdown department as well. Get players attached to good quarterbacks. It's maybe more of an upside ranking, or just a belief ranking, as opposed to like he has done it ranking. And of course, you always want to look for a team's wide receiver 1. T. Higgins is his team's wide receiver 2. But it's as good of a scenario as you could potentially ask for. So I got Higgins as my wide receiver 9. I'm a firm believer in him and his future starting this year. Well,
and I have him at 12, and that's just because there are really 2 wide receivers.
You got other guys that you like. So you
2
had
wide
Tyreek
receivers
at 9.
here that they profile more as wide receiver ones for their offenses, and that's
sure. So that's your. So we're up to your wide receiver 10. Who you got?
This is where I have Michael Pittman, Johnny Jones's guy.
There you go.
Hopefully, you press the button
at my wide
on
receiver
that.
12. I have Pittman as my wide receiver 12.
24 years old, wide receiver 15 on the year, and he's going to be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with. I mean, Calvin Ridley last season with Matt Ryan had 52 targets in 5 games. That's a 27.4% target share, 40% air yard share. Over those 5 games, Calvin Ridley was 4th in air yard share. Something people don't think about because Calvin Ridley wasn't firing all that much last year. But Matt Ryan was giving him all the chances he could handle to succeed, and he was not succeeding with them. And then we all know how that went for Calvin Ridley. But Pittman is in that spot now. He's in the spot where in the first 5 games he can get 52 targets, which would be phenomenal. And his only competition, you can point to Calvin Ridley's competition last year, Ridley just being Kyle Pitts, Russell Cordero Patterson, right? But Pittman's competition is even less than what Calvin Ridley had in Atlanta. Paris Campbell might be the wide receiver 2 there until Alec Pierce can come in and take that spot from him. But even so, you're hoping that Alec Pierce becomes what we all thought Paris Campbell was good at.
Naheem Hines, Mo Alley Cox,
Mo Alley Cox is there.
Or pieces that we are interested in, but from a overall perspective, from like the target competition. Yeah,
much less target competition.
Much less.
And you look at what Michael Pittman did last year in the advanced metrics. Not a lot of wide receivers. Not a lot of. I can't put these metrics in here. We didn't discuss these metrics with a lot of wide receivers because they just didn't have the totals that Michael Pittman did. But in total route wins, which is exactly what it sounds like. How many wins you have against your competition across from you on a route per route basis. Michael Pittman was 3rd in the NFL in total route wins, 4th in the NFL in route win rate, 14th in targets, 3rd in route participation. That picture showed
it's a pretty one.
I mean, it's a pretty one, but like if you're winning routes at the 3rd and 4th best rate in the NFL, but you're only 14th in targets, there's a disconnect there. And we saw that play out last year. When Michael Pittman was heavily targeted by Carson Wentz, it seemed to work out. And then there were games, and I know Jonathan Taylor's there. Why would you not feed Jonathan Taylor the rock? But there were large swaths of games throughout the season last year where Michael Pittman was kind of, I'm not going to say phased out of the offense, but it almost felt that way because
they ran the ball to take the ball out of Wentz's hands because Wentz was such an erratic player, is such an erratic player.
But they're going to do the opposite with Matt Ryan. They're not, I mean, he is going to probably have the same, grade out the same in terms of total route wins because that's something that does carry over year to year. If you're a good savvy route runner, you just are. That is just what you are. But 14th in targets, that's going to go way up with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, I made this point earlier, has thrown for over 4,000 yards in 10 straight seasons prior to 2021. In 2021, he threw for under 4,000 yards in one more game for the first time in his career. And a lot of that had to do with no Julio Jones. Calvin Ridley going down after 5 weeks.
The deck was completely stacked against him.
Right, but Cordero Patterson being a dual threat option to where he wasn't solely winning through the air, he was winning on the ground. There were a lot of factors here that added up to Matt Ryan not throwing for 4,000 yards for the first time in 10 years.
And now he's also got to boot a significantly better offensive line.
Carson Wentz, 2021, he passed for 3,563 yards. So in 2021, he passed for less yards than even Matt Ryan did last year.
In a better situation,
right? And I'm sorry. In 2021, Carson Wentz got Michael Pittman to wide receiver 15 on 3,500 passing yards. And Matt Ryan has a track record of throwing for over 500 yards more than that yearly in his sleep. Michael Pittman is going to be better than the wide receiver 15 this year. It's just a matter of where he falls.
Matter of where he lands.
And right now I have him jumping 5 spots to wide receiver 10. And I think even that is conservative. And maybe it's just because I am that bullish on Michael Pittman. But we saw how many years, straight seasons, did we see Julio Jones finish with over 1,400 yards?
Yeah, I mean, and that's...
And we're... Yes, I'm not...
Julio's phenomenal, a phenomenal talent.
My point was that a lot of that had to do with the rate at which Matt Ryan passed the ball
to his wide receiver 1.
Julio Jones wasn't getting those totals on any other team in the NFL. Matt Ryan is a underrated, good passer in the NFL. I'll say it, just under that elite tier. He's not elite,
yeah, I mean, but he's won an MVP, so
I would say he's a great passer in the league. You don't throw for 4,000 yards in 10 straight seasons without being a great passer in the league. And he gets the best wide receiver he's ever played with outside of Julio Jones and Michael Pittman.
Does that include Calvin Ridley? And Hunter's asking that question. Hunter's, is Michael Pittman on Ridley's level or talent level? I'm kind of paraphrasing.
I mean, Calvin Ridley did have a year where he finished, wide receiver 4?
His, I think his 3rd season. Yeah, he was like when he took over as the wide receiver 1 over Julio. He was
but
excellent.
Julio was still on the squad, right?
Julio was still on the squad.
Yeah, Michael Pittman can do that this year. That's what I'm saying. Michael Pittman's ceiling is what Calvin Ridley did that season.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he's 24 years old.
Yeah, he's still getting better. Potential for a 3rd-year breakout.
I like
and
Michael
Hunter,
Pittman
about
a lot,
Matt Ryan not being Matt Ryan anymore. I don't know that we can say that. I think we saw a Falcons team collectively bottom out last year, and Ryan still wasn't that awful. Again, the Falcons' offensive line is dog water. The Colts' offensive line is great. He's getting the best
team is great.
The Colts team as a whole is great. Yeah, the Falcons, like, their defense is trash. Like, Matt Ryan had to, like, how many times did the Falcons have a lead late and they blew it because their defense was awful? Not last year. Last year they were just bad, but the year before. I don't know that we can say that Matt Ryan is done or not the same anymore, so to speak. Yeah, obviously he's older. He's 36, 37 at this point. So, I mean, you have to take that into consideration, but quarterbacks in their late 30s can still do it. And that's painting with a broad brush, but I wouldn't say Matt Ryan is done.
No, look at the quarterbacks that have moved on. I think he's gonna be just fine. Look at the quarterbacks that have moved on. Look at the quarterbacks that have moved on late in their careers recently. Later in their careers recently. Matt Stafford was nobody's favorite quarterback on the Lions. I mean, he kind of topped out as a borderline QB1. He was like QB12, QB11, and that's where he topped out at. Goes to a different team in the, I'll say, twilight of his career that better fits what he does well, and he finishes as a high-end QB1 and wins a Super Bowl. I mean, who else? Tom Brady. Tom Brady on the Patriots.
That's the GOAT.
No. Tom Brady on the Patriots. When he left the Patriots, we were all thinking, can he do what he did with Belichick on the Patriots on another team? Is this where we see the fall off for Tom Brady? Obviously, that sounds crazy now. But what did he do when he left the Patriots after being on the Patriots and going to all those Super Bowls, even late in his career? He got better statistically. He got better statistically because the team that went out and paid money to get him was more willing to play to his strengths and let him kind of run the offense and dictate to them what he wanted from the offense elsewhere. Whereas where he was staying where he was at, He just kind of stagnant. And yes, they went to the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, and went to the Super Bowl pretty much every single year. But you look at what Tom Brady was doing on the Patriots versus what Tom Brady was doing was doing on the Bucks. It's almost like the tale of two cities. And we could say that we could see the same thing pan out for Matt Ryan. And I know what you're saying, Hunter L. Look at the weapons for Stafford and look at the weapons for Brady. Matt Ryan doesn't quite have those weapons. But we're not talking about Matt Ryan coming in and being a top 5 quarterback. We're talking about his number one weapon.
Yeah, we're just talking about supporting one guy.
Yeah, we're talking about Michael Pittman here. Do I expect Matt Ryan to come into Indianapolis and win a Super Bowl? No. I wouldn't
and
even
for fantasy,
him
he's
to
like a
get in.
QB2.
Right. But he is playing on the all-around best roster I believe he's ever played on.
All-around
roster?
I don't. Yeah,
all-around roster.
I can't. I don't know.
All-around roster. I think it's the best all-around roster that he's ever played on. Maybe not the best weapons.
Regardless, this is not like a. This is. I think point blank. I don't think we can use like the past couple of years to paint where Matt Ryan is in his career.
Yeah.
I think this year. I think he's going to prove that he can still do it for at least another couple of seasons. And he might not put up the fantasy numbers, but we're not talking about Matt Ryan here. We're talking about just can Matt Ryan support a high-end wide receiver 1 option for fantasy? And I would say the answer is yes.
Yes. Now, yeah. It would be interesting to see Julio Jones get signed there. But Michael Pittman, wide receiver 10, and I'm not thinking too hard about it. I think he deserves that spot. And
yeah,
I know I said at wide
12.
receiver. I know I said at wide receiver 9. I was looking at Tyreek Hill and thinking maybe I should just wait and draft the guy that I have behind him. And I would have to see where they're falling in ADPs to figure that one out. But I feel better about taking Michael Pittman at wide receiver 10 than I feel about taking Tyreek Hill wide receiver 9, which might sound absolutely crazy. But this is where we're at with 2022, and might be a little hot takey, but that is what it is. But who do you have next?
So Debo was my wide receiver 10. We already talked at length about him.
Yeah, who do you have at 11?
So my wide receiver 11 is Keenan Allen. This is kind of, I'll keep this short because we are on the onset of like a 3-hour stream here.
Well, hey, it's
crispier.
It's nice having a stream that isn't betraying us every 5 minutes, but go for it.
You're right about that. I'll keep this simple. It's a very similar, but to a lesser extent, conversation that we've had about the likes of, say, like Stephon Diggs and the Bengals wide receivers. Good players on good teams attached to good quarterbacks. Keenan Allen has been a low-end wide receiver 1 for the duration of his career. Justin Herbert is one of the best, not just young quarterbacks in the NFL, but one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL already. This is a team that revamped its offensive line, specifically on the left side of the line where they sorely needed upgrades. They drafted and addressed it. They re-signed Mike Williams. They still have good pieces in Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton. They did not really add anybody else, though. They didn't sign a tight end. Well, they signed Gerald Everett, but they didn't sign a premier option at the position. Keenan Allen has been a low-end wide receiver 1 for his career, and he continues to be drafted that way near the top of the 3rd round of 12-team drafts. So you are drafting him around where he normally is. So, yes, he's a year older. We've already talked about how this is a while ago now, but he has suffered a couple of season-ending injuries, and he is approaching his age 30 season if he's not there already. But he's a technician at the position. He's a PPR monster. Mike Williams is more of the big play threat and gives you the chance for bigger games, more like slate busting games. But Keenan Allen is as rock solid as they come. He is as consistent and reliable as they come. And he operates in that short intermediate area. Maybe you can almost kind of talk about him and Austin Eckler are the ones that kind of like, they're the ones who kind of vulture each other a little bit in that short intermediate area, whereas Mike Williams is more of their downfield threat. So the argument is certainly there for Mike Williams to be in the wide receiver 1 conversation. I will give the nod to Keenan Allen, though, just because of the pedigree, and he has done it. And not much has changed in this Chargers offense. Still attached to one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Herbert. In PPR leagues and in half PPR leagues, I expect Allen to maintain his regular, reliable, consistent production. Give me Keenan Allen at wide receiver 11. His teammate Mike Williams is not far behind. I like them both, but I'll give the edge to Allen as the de facto. I'll say he's the 1A. Mike Williams is the 1B.
I'm not going to disagree with literally anything you said. And
close.
I have Mike Williams here at wide receiver 11. So
the Chargers wide receivers are
right.
Yeah.
It's one of the Chargers wide receivers. You just got to pick which one you like more. Now
I like them both. I'll just give the slight nod to Allen. You give the slight nod to Williams.
And it's because of the upside that Mike Williams presents. Keenan Allen,
the big play guy. Yeah.
Yes. Keenan Allen is just gets more targets, about 40 to 50 more targets on the year than Mike Williams does on a year-to-year basis. But Mike Williams is 2 to 3 years younger. He was wide receiver 10 in his own right last year, despite the 9th most wide receiver drops. So if he cleans up those drops, something that wide receivers do clean up year to year, like Deontay Johnson did just a few years ago, he can finish even higher. He was 5th in total route wins and 3rd in routes versus man. So again, two of the route win metrics that we brought up with Michael Pittman, the same statistics apply to Mike Williams. He was winning routes out there on a play-to-play basis. No target competition outside of Allen and Eckler. And he opened the last year with 6 touchdowns and 471 yards through 5 weeks. He was the wide receiver 3 in standard and the wide receiver 4 in PPR. And that is the reason. The wide
receiver 2, but yeah.
That is the reason why I have him higher than Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen is rock solid.
Yeah,
rock solid.
100 catches in 4 of his past 5 years.
Right, he is going to be right on that wide receiver 1 borderline year after year after year until he gets phased out of the offense altogether,
until he's not doing it anymore.
Yeah, which isn't going to be happening anytime soon. But what he does not have is that top 3, top 4 wide receiver upside.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
And yes, there was a lull in Mike Williams' year last year
because
in week 5 he picked up a knee injury, and from weeks 5 to around probably week 10 or 11, no, a little bit less than that, week 10, he went through a little bit of a slump, but he picked it back up again when he was healthy. And then he had 1 absence due to COVID, but he finished wide receiver 9 in standard and wide receiver 12 in PPR.
Yeah.
And I just wide receiver 9 to wide receiver 12, that's where you're expecting Keenan Allen to finish in a good year.
Yeah.
Mike Williams had a lull where he didn't really do much for 5 weeks and ended up falling to wide receiver 9 and wide receiver 12 in standard and PPR.
That's a good point.
To where Keenan Allen ended up being, because Keenan Allen's just a boss, and that's just what he does year in, year out. But the ceiling that we're talking about from these guys is very different. Mike Williams just has a much higher ceiling than Keenan Allen, and it really depends on risk tolerance, which one you have at wide receiver 11. If you're going Keenan Allen, I don't hate that at all. I get it. Great wide receiver. I love Keenan Allen. I'm just going all out for that upside.
The big play, swing for the fences. Yeah, no, and that's fair. That's fair. You're not going to really get an argument from me. I would say if I had to rank my best ball rankings because of that big play upside, Mike Williams I would have ahead of Keenan Allen. I'll take I guess I slightly prefer the consistency that Keenan Allen brings to the table, and that's why I have him wide receiver 11. Mike Williams just misses my top 12. But he's damn close. He's damn good. He proved that last year. I'll take either one of these wide receivers at the end of the day. I think the Chargers passing game is one that you want to have stock in. It's just a matter of personal preference. Draft them both. Draft Allen, draft Williams. I don't care.
Last year was the first year that Mike Williams had over 100 targets. He had 129
129,
targets.
pretty good.
I think that's repeatable for him.
Yep.
I think that's repeatable. The receiving touchdowns should stay around the same because, again, the target distribution in this offense, we expect this team to be scoring a ton. Justin Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Mike Williams, man.
He should be in for a strong season. I like both of these Chargers receivers.
8th in red zone targets, 10th in total touchdowns. That correlates. That's not going anywhere. 9th in drops. That should get better. So he could have, another 5 receptions on the year, which might not seem like much, but if you string those up over the course of a 6-game stretch, that could be the difference between a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 1. It doesn't take much. And again, he wins routes. You might not think of Mike Williams as the type of wide receiver that wins routes. You might think of him more as a contested catch wide receiver with his big body and how he plays. But he has clearly learned from spending his entire career with Keenan Allen, the past 5 seasons with Keenan Allen. If he's winning routes like that with his archetype, I mean, he's when you put those two things together, he's kind of a unicorn.
Yep.
6'4", 218, but a savvy route runner too, not just winning with size.
Right, with big
like not even T. Higgins, who we both love, can say that he's winning. He's winning a ton of routes out there. He's not. He's not bad, but he's not winning routes at a top 5 rate in the NFL. Mike Williams is, and he's tied to one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, who finished quarterback 2 last year and passed for 5,000 yards in his rookie year or in his second season. What was that Justin
last
Herbert?
year? 5,000 in his second year.
Well, again, regardless, that to your point, that's not changing, and it's just Mike Williams.
The upside is very tantalizing.
The upside is very tantalizing, and it's enough for me to say, you know what, I'm gonna wait on Tyreek Hill if I can pick up Mike Williams a few spots later, or if I'm right near a turn.
That's fair.
If I'm 2 away from a turn, I go another position, and then with the knowledge that I can pick up Mike Williams or Michael
somewhere
Pittman,
at the top of the 3rd round,
right? Then I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
fine with that.
I mean, it's not a bad pivot. It's not a bad pivot.
When you're looking at upside, I think those guys this year have more upside than a guy like Hill.
Yeah. Okay.
Crazy to say, but that's where I'm at. And T. Higgins is my wide receiver 12. We've already been over T. Higgins. I just could not put him ahead of Pittman and Williams because I do believe that they are the wide receiver 1s in their offense.
Pittman definitely is,
and they do have top 4 upside. I do think Michael Pittman has prime Calvin Ridley with Julio and Matt Ryan upside this year. I do believe that Mike Williams has sustained wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 upside as long as he can stay healthy in that offense. I believe that. T. Higgins, not so much, but he definitely has top 12 upside. So number 12 wide receiver, T. Higgins, just beats out A.J. Brown.
Brown is my wide receiver 13, which we can get into. Well, actually, a quick note: I will not be available for Thursday,
and we'll wait on that. We'll wait on that. I'll come up with something to do on.
So maybe
Thursday.
we'll do our wide receiver 13 to 24 rankings next Tuesday. Yeah. I will be out on Thursday.
Just out of curiosity, is my voice coming out of your speakers right now?
I don't think so.
Are you using headphones right now?
Just using the mic.
But my voice.
I don't hear anything.
How are you hearing me then?
I don't know, through our call.
Right, but anyway, we'll talk about it off.
All right,
I think
we'll
it's picking
it out
up
later.
my voice twice. There's a loop.
Oh, okay. Shoot. All right. Well,
it's all right. If that's the only technical difficulty that we had to deal with all day today, I'll take it.
We are wrapping this up, so we can figure that out.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I have Pittman at my wide receiver 12. You know, you're not going to cure me arguments from me as far as like pumping up Michael Pittman. So I think our guys are all the same outside of the Chargers wide receivers who we're both high on just for different reasons. And of course, the position is or the rankings are slightly different. Johnny, as far as is this Keenan's last fantasy relevant year? Maybe as like a high end option, but
he's going to age gracefully.
I think he's going to be fine for, I would say, maybe another couple of years. Attached to Herbert, his chances are fine. And yeah, he probably loses a little bit of value this year because Mike Williams has finally blossomed into that dude. He is that guy. It's just a matter of what do you prefer? Do you want 100 catches, which might top out at like a low end wide receiver one season, but there's going to be week to week rock solid consistency? Or do you want the potential for peaks and valleys, but the potential is a top 5 finish at the position with week winning upside? There might be some doldrums here and there, but with Mike Williams, but there's week winning upside any given week. It's just a matter of what do you want to swing for? Because their ADPs are incredibly close.
And people got to watch out for being too scared of an age cliff occurring in Dynasty. I mean, there are outlier wide receivers, and I believe that Keenan Allen is one of those guys. You look at wide receivers that played very well very late into their careers. They were all the technician type, the route running type, who didn't rely on their outright athleticism, but relied on their smarts for the game and just their ability to set up opposing cornerbacks to fail on a play-to-play basis. Yeah. Larry Fitz did it at an elite rate until like age 37. Reggie Wayne did it at an elite rate until I believe age 36. We look at you guys who are a little bit younger. Not even a little bit younger. AB can still do it if he would just get his head on straight. He's that caliber of wide receiver. Adam Thielen has continued to be productive, and he's turning 33 this year. And Keenan Allen is only 30.
Yeah,
and he's a technician.
30 years old is not a death knell for wide receivers.
Who ran a 4.7 and broke both of his legs and is still burning people because he doesn't rely on his athleticism so much as he's just better at playing the game than everybody. And that doesn't fade as much as he gets up there in age. It's not a guy like Julio who crazy athleticism, the athleticism hits the cliff and he falls off. Who are other guys like that? Alshon Jeffrey was like that. Des Bryant was like that. Demaryius Thomas, RIP, was like that. That archetype
Larry
of wide
Fitz.
receiver falls off. Well, no, Larry Fitz is the other type of wide receiver who plays until he's 37.
He played until he was 30. Yeah. The point being,
but in his age 35 season, he was still a top 24 wide receiver.
Yeah, you don't.
He's an outlier.
Yeah, wide receivers age much more gracefully than
that's
running
that Keenan
backs.
Allen archetype. I think Keenan Allen can play well until
I think
his
he's got a couple
age
more
34
seasons.
season. I think
he's had a couple more seasons.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Keenan Allen. This being Keenan Allen's last fantasy relevant year. If anybody in your league is, buy him up. And Hunter L, if Tyreek comes out this year and has a couple of good games early, should I look to move him or roll with him for the foreseeable future?
I mean, if he's doing well, and I'm a contender, I'm inclined to roll with a player of Tyreek's caliber.
It really depends on where you are at with your dynasty team.
Yeah, it depends on if you're
a contender, hold him.
Yeah. If you're like a middle of the pack team and you're like, I don't know if I can do, I'm not sure if I'm necessarily a competitor this year, but like maybe I make the playoffs, but like maybe I'm not exactly a team that's in title contention, then yeah, maybe sell high. But if you're looking at your team and like, I got a top 3 team and Tyreek is balling, hold. Yeah, hang on to him.
Yeah, but that if your team is not top 3, I'm selling.
That's fine.
If your team is not
wait
top
for him,
3.
Wait for him to get his value back up, though, because I feel like right now it's kind of at his floor.
Yeah, but again, the peak value thing comes into conversation here. So if he comes back, if he does well for a few games, and Tua is showing out, contrary to how I believe it will play out, If that happens over the stretch of a few games, sell. Like if you're not expecting that stretch to continue, sell. I am kicking myself last year because there was a stretch of games where Sam Darnold had 5 touchdowns in 6 games, and somebody came knocking and asked if he could buy him, and I said, nah, should have sold. And completely different situations and talents and positions, but the point stands. If a player over the course of a few games shows that his ceiling over the few games is higher than you would have thought, higher than consensus is in the fantasy community, and you believe you can capitalize off of that and keep it moving, then that I have no issues with you exploring a trade at that point. But you got to watch out, because with players as highly thought of and as high caliber as Tyreek Hill, you don't want to just trade on a whim. It has to be a calculated move, and it can't just be for anything. But I will throw out one last thing with respect to Tyreek Hill that I did not get to while we were talking about him. There were rumblings right after the trade happened that the reason why Kansas City was okay with getting rid of Tyreek Hill was that the Kansas City Chiefs do a lot of tracking athletically and medically with their players to see where they stand. And apparently it was the first year where they saw a drop in athleticism from one year to the next in just the microchip following Tyreek Hill around on the field and type deal. I don't have any concrete evidence of this, but there was some rumblings that Kansas City thought that not that a cliff was coming, but he was losing a little bit at the athleticism that made him truly elite. And so they were okay with moving on a year early versus a few years early versus a few years
early
late,
before a year or other than
and handing
year
out
late.
a huge contract, because we're not even talking about in terms of just 1 year. They had to either lock him up for 4 seasons, 5 seasons, or trade him.
Yeah.
They might not have saw that cliff coming in a year, maybe even 2, but maybe they saw it coming in 3 and didn't want to backload themselves with a contract, an albatross, for 3 years down the road.
I mean, that will play out on the field this year.
That will play out on the field this year, but it was something that I did hear. I don't have any concrete news or evidence of this, but I'm just passing along information as I heard it.
And as far as like another receiver near his value, I mean, I would say Hunter, one of the guys we talked about was Pittman. I would say another guy is like DJ Moore. Try to look for a way to get 3 years younger at the position.
Yeah, and or if you can
3 or 4 years younger at the position.
If you can add more onto it. Say you got Tyreek Hill. If you have Tyreek Hill and you can throw a 24 first onto it and trade up to get a Jefferson or a Chase.
I don't know if you can get those guys, but
I don't know if you can get those guys, but with a guy like Tyreek Hill, you can try.
Sure.
Especially if he's starting off real hot.
Try with Lamb.
Yeah,
I would still rank Lamb like a top 4. Like I would say a top 4 dynasty wide
Higgins,
receiver.
If you can move off of Tyreek and move it into Higgins plus.
Sure.
Those are the type of moves. Type of moves.
Hell, his teammate Waddle. Yeah. Waddle's 5 years younger and has a built-in rapport with Tua already after catching over 100 balls last year.
You know he's good because he broke the rookie reception.
Right. The possibilities are endless. But yeah, look to get at least 3 years younger at the position and go from there.
Yeah.
I think that about does it for today, though. So This was great, though, that we were able to like run through a 3-hour stream with very few, if any, technical issues.
Yeah, it didn't even skip once. This is awesome.
I'll take it. If anybody has any other questions, of course, you can use the Discord. If anybody is watching who is not in the Discord, it is the second link in the description of this live stream and many of our most recent videos on our channel. You don't need to be a member to join. You can click on that, sign up, join the community, get questions answered, talk through anything fantasy related with the people who are already in there. Everybody's ready and willing and eager to talk fantasy football at any time in the Discord. Go ahead and join up if you haven't. You can continue asking questions or talking shop there. Speaking of members, if you are not a member and are interested in becoming a member of this channel, I believe that is the first link in the description of this video and many of our most recent videos on this channel. There are different perks, different levels of different extra content that are available. Now that the technical issues around the live streams are behind us, John has some members only content in the pipeline that I believe is planning to pump out soon. So there are additional perks that are available.
I've just been working double time on the
live stream.
Now I don't know if anybody has checked this out yet. But there's
stuff in the pipeline.
Our website is currently down right now, so I got to get to that too. But there is stuff in the pipeline. Julius Chestnut video that doubles as a Hassan Haskins video, just to talk about the Titans backfield. There's also a members-only video, a couple of members-only videos coming out on draft profiles for prospects in the 2023 season. Stay tuned for those if you're a member, and those will be available to the general public later on, like 5-6 months from now. But we're giving the members the sneak previews so that just the members get that information first.
Just for some extra content. Yeah,
the members get that information first. But stay tuned for that. Nick's got some stuff coming. I got some stuff coming. As we're gonna be ramping up now that we have the technical difficulties behind us, and we're getting closer to the season, y'all. It's already mini camp time. Training camp is coming, preseason's coming, and we can't wait.
Keep it locked here with us. We'll have you covered.
Thursday, Nick will not be with us, but we'll try to have something fun for y'all. And we will continue these rankings in our next joint public stream, which is next Tuesday.
Yeah, next Tuesday we'll do 13 to 24.
Right. And then moving on from there, we'll tackle some other positions. But thank y'all for sticking with us through this 3-hour and change stream. This was actually our 114th stream. So to anybody who will be around tomorrow, any of our members, 115th stream, y'all. So that's fun. It's cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
I looked at the numbers. I didn't realize that we had done that many, but here we are. Finally got the technicals figured out 114 streams later. But thanks, everybody, for joining in the chat, all your questions. It was great to talk with all y'all. Hunter, it was great to see you. Great to see you, Johnny Jones. Thanks for coming through. Alex, Rojo, Khalid, you already know. Slim, P. Diddy, Pop Diddy, Puff, all y'all. We appreciate you. If I missed anybody, I apologize. And we will be back here for the members tomorrow. And I'll see y'all on Thursday. And we'll talk shit about Nick.
Fun.
But word.
Fun.
It was good. Good stream. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Or Thursday.
Members tomorrow, and everybody else later in the week. Have a good one, everybody.
Peace, y'all.